And g'day, battlers, and welcome to the Clash of the Champions APAC edition, where we're going to see 6 of the greatest battlers in all of Asia, and potentially all of the world, fighting it out in the Open Great League to get the ultimate title of the ultimate champion of the APAC region. But, of course, I can't do this myself. I don't have the ability to contain all of this talent from the Asian region. So I've brought 3 other people coming in from the APAC region to help me out. And to my this way, we have the lovely RocketClare, 2-time third place finisher in the Play Pokemon circuit. Welcome in, Claire. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks, Steve. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to see how these battles play out and see some of these players, some of the best players around APAC who finished at the top of their playoffs in their respective countries, and get a bit more of an understanding of how they take on these battles. And it's super exciting, I think, because a lot of them are people we haven't seen. They've been names we've heard of, but we haven't necessarily seen them battle before. So really keen to see it play out.
Yeah, and obviously, Claire's here looking for strats. She's watching her competitors through this stream, going into Honolulu. So we'll see how it all goes. But Trotter, also below me, coming in from the AU of S. I don't know. The US of A came to my head, and then I was like, well, I guess we're 3 letters. I don't know. But anyway, Trotter's here. Sometimes there's other heads behind him, but hi.
Yeah. So not from Tasmania. It's not my head. I've got the little ones will be around in and out today. So to apologize for that, but that's life as a parent, as many people out there would know. Yeah, thanks for having us on, Steve. Really looking forward to seeing some of these battles today. And man, Claire's not going to be the only one looking for strats, because I'll be gunning this for potentially any regionals coming up in Australia later this year.
True. Whenever they may be announced. But also coming in, notrobmay, coming hot off of the World's 2023 caster desk, coming in from APAC as well. Welcome in, Rob. Good to have you here.
Yeah, it's been so long that it's cooled down and then gotten hotter again. Yeah. So, but yeah, glad to be here. Glad to help out. The APAC region has got some pretty fantastic battlers that don't get a lot of screen time, so that's the desire today. And hopefully we won't give you too much bias, but we'll let you guys know that some of these people are friends of ours, so we're kind of rooting for all of them to win in some way, shape, or form. But that's the beauty of Swiss, I guess.
No, exactly right. So yeah. I guess breakdown of what the tournament is today, because I think a lot of these Clash of the Champions streams have been sort of round robin scenarios with lower player counts. Today, because we are bringing in 6 of the champions, we are going to be doing a 3-round Swiss tournament. So today we're going to see 9 total matches, 6 people, 3 rounds of 3 matches. And so we have a lot of really hype battles to see, and a lot of very creative teams coming in as well, which the APAC region is sort of known for, especially. I mean, if for those of you that watched Dracoviz' stream last weekend, their Journey to World stream, I mean, we saw Empoleon finishing in 2nd. We saw Trevenant in 3rd. There was a Shadow Giraffe Rig in the top 6. Like, the APAC region definitely knows how to get a little bit spicy. So we'll see if we see any of that today. But the other important thing that we sort of need to, I guess, quickly go through is who we're going to see today. And we'll be able to sort of see them in action as we go through. But as I mentioned, there are going to be 6 trainers coming in this tournament. And I could have got the Dracoviz graphics, but this just shows you how unprepared and unprofessional I am. But first of all, coming in from the Indian playoffs, which was the largest playoffs series in the entire sort of Asian region outside of PJCS, which operates on a very different system to the rest of the Asian tournaments, where, I mean, through the other 6 that we're going to see today, they sort of had to go through a qualifier series where only the top chunk of players then qualified for a playoffs tournament, and only the top 2 to 4 battlers from that playoffs tournament actually qualified to the World Championship. So really, really stacked competition. And so everyone who was able to fight through to that championship title went through an absolute gauntlet. So we have Beelzeboy coming in from the India region, who, again, they had to battle through a 256 player qualifier series to then qualify to the playoffs and win through that undefeated, I believe, through the Indian series. We also have gamebirdTW, Gamebird Taiwan, coming in from, you guessed it, Taiwan, who also went through completely undefeated, not a single match lost in that 148 Taiwanese tournament circuit. We then have from the APAC tournament, which is a little bit confusing. APAC is essentially a combination of Hong Kong, the Philippines, Singapore, and Malaysia, all compete in the 137-person tournament. And through that series, we had Yakai 0904 qualifying through there. In the Indonesian tournament, we had Zero Serpanicolot, someone who's definitely been making some waves in recent times, and also went through without dropping a single set, going through the playoffs of that tournament. I'm sensing a pattern. I don't know about you guys. We then had the South Korean tournament with 60 players competing from South Korea, and we had Goji0408, who qualified, I think, using Inadequence's team with Wigglytuff and Giratina, which, you know, it was good in that 3-day period where that was the sort of only meta that we were allowed to use, but turns out still pretty decent going into the sort of wide open meta as well. Actually making a run through the losers bracket as well. So bucking the trend of the other APAC battlers. And last but certainly not least, coming in from Thailand, we have Bjpawat, someone who is sort of well known in the community as part of the Dracoviz team, very much out there, and also actually making quite the losers bracket run through their playoffs tournament in Thailand. But again, that's sort of just the brief overview of the 6 battlers. We're going to see them putting the pedal to the metal through 3 matches each through this series. But yeah, I guess without further ado, I guess any thoughts before we dive into seeing 6 of the best players in Asia, who we are going to see all of at the World Championships in Honolulu in just over a month's time.
Yeah, sure. I'll take the first crack at this. So I know Panic is actually a friend of mine. We set up like a big stream situation on Twitch together, and like I've done some duos with him, and he is one of the most talented battlers in the world for sure, not just in his region. He in 2022 qualified for Worlds, going undefeated. So and in 2023 and in that same year encountered visa issues where he could not compete at Worlds. And then in 2023, he missed Worlds by 1 match, and was a 1-2 in it was basically he went the two games that he went 1-2 were enough to knock down his record to be ineligible, and had basically he told me in later times that it was because of comp. Like he had a very hard comp into his opponent where his team was very easy to read. And then there was also at that time there was a lot of like in-game bugs that he encountered, and they didn't have like any things there. So he's like, they're just like stacking on excuses was what I told him. But he's funny. But yeah, Panic is one of the most talented people you're gonna see. Very, very precise play, and team reading is very, very good. I do believe BJ was qualified the last 2 times for Worlds. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's right. He's sort of been absolutely slaughtering the Thailand scene from his end. Sort of the undisputed GOAT of Thailand, I think. And going to try and put that rep to the medal in this one.
And if you're familiar with any of these names, if you're familiar with Gym Breakers, you might be familiar with some of the other names of these battlers, because a lot of them compete for their countries and regions in Gym Breakers. So obviously, Goji, Beelzeboy. I think I've actually played against both of those in Gym Breakers. And I'm not too sure about Bjpawat. I think they do, and Fine Panic has in the past. I don't think he's playing the Indo this year, but yeah. So
and how did that go, Trotter, when you played against them? Just curious.
Usually a 0-3 or a 1-2. I'm going to be honest.
He can't remember that well.
So their win streaks continue.
yeah, exactly.
For them, not for me. That's what.
Yeah.
Look, there's a reason that he.
Look, the game, it was there's lag and other things that the mechanics.
There were visa issues. There was
yeah.
Meanwhile, there's a very strict refereeing team that like oversees all that. But anyway, Claire, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I won't lie. Steve probably did hit the nail on the head there. I'm super excited to see what's going to happen with the meta in these playoffs. have been keeping a bit of a close eye on what's happening and what people are using in Open Great League and Show 6 Pick 3, but it's hard at the moment, right? There haven't been many Play Pokemon regionals shown, or haven't been any, obviously, since NAIC. So it's really great to have these tournaments like the Dracoviz one last weekend, and then also this one, just to get a bit of an idea of what people are thinking the meta has moved to now. And I do believe it's changed just slightly. There are some things that you're seeing more often just in scrims or in what people are using, and a few things that have dropped off. So very key, I think, will be who is reading what the current meta is, who's got those picks that can potentially potentially haven't been anticipated by their opponents, and are there some core breakers out there, and has someone built a really unique team, or are many of the teams very similar? So very excited to see all of that.
Yeah, we're going to see it all play out, because as you said, there's only been, one tournament actually played in this meta, and that was NAIC on the official tournament circuit, because those few tournaments at the start of June were actually still using the previous meta because of that delayed new meta moveset update. But I think that's sort of, with all of that said, I think we can finally jump into these first set of battles, because we've got a lot of really awesome battles to see today. So I'm going to be throwing it off to Trotter and Rob for this first matchup between Beelzeboy coming in from India, and of course Zero Sir Panic a lot coming in as well. So take it away, lads. See you on the other side.
All right, we'll see you there.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, and as we can see now in the graphic here, we've got the teams up, and only one shadow per side and plenty of bulk sitting there, Rob.
Yeah, this is also something that we noticed that is going to be difficult to kind of put into words, but when we're running this kind of APAC Champions tournament, this is going to be pretty close to what you would see more in the world stage rather than like in a regionals or even an IC, because when the players come into play, these events have a clash across different regions meeting in the middle. So generally speaking, you see like an Australian regional, or you see a European regional, or you see an NA regional. Each of those sections have their kind of distinct bubbles, if you will, of influence. Most of the time they kind of stick to the same teams. It's very similar stuff kind of across the board, whereas we do see some of the similarities, but this is kind of cross region, right? With Beelzeboy in India and Panic in Indonesia. Also, something as note, I believe from memory, Panic always tells me that if he can, he tries to run his Emerald because it's just really, really strong. And I think like across the board for all top 6 today, we're going to be seeing out of the 6 teams, 4 of them are running a Vigoroth, and 5 of them are running Charjabug, which is very interesting. And then also half of them are running Cresselia. So very, 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 very interesting across the board kind of general statistics with these. And then the shadows here, I feel like are going to really tell the story and how they can kind of get aligned. What do you think on comps here? If you're kind of sitting in the driver's seat here, what are you anticipating for kind of your general safety pick as we're getting ready to jump in?
Well, I mean, Vigoroth is pretty safe. Vigoroth's a very safe, comfortable Pokemon. So is Lickitung, though, for Sir Panic a lot. And you can even go a step further and just look at this matchup. Mandibuzz, it's going to do okay. It's probably going to lose. You don't want to safe swap it. But it is going to do okay still into the Charjabug. Maybe not so good into the Azu, but it can bulk through it. And the goal being then to put something into a farm down range. So then you can, even though you lose switch, you can gain back that lost momentum just through energy management, and timing, and usage. But interestingly, I think the big spice pick for me is Beelzeboy's Skeledirge over there. Because even though it's fire, it can hit everything here with either the Incinerates or the charge moves. And yeah, it does get the charge moves stupidly fast, even though it's throwing 5-turn move Incinerates. It's one that's tricky, and it's going to be kind of fun to watch actually, and see what gets played by these trainers and what doesn't. But yeah, that Vigoroth's just gonna it's gonna hit everything. I feel like it's gonna be hard to not bring that for either of these trainers.
Yeah, it's also very interesting with the Cresselia inclusion. I feel like that's really a lot of the locations for when people have the choices to make in their team comp, whether they're going to run the Grass Knot with Moonblast, the Grass Knot with Future Sight, or if they're just going to opt for a comp without even running a Grass Knot, which is very rare, and running the double strong, long energy attacks with Moonblast and Future Sight. But these are open team sheets, and the movesets will be posted shortly as to what we're going to be seeing. But Beelzeboy should be able to play relative. Like, these teams have a lot of safety, and I think, like you said, to circle to what you said at the beginning, Panic's got the team that is very good at setup, right? He's setups for those energy leads and then kind of closing with 2 shields if he needs them, in very, very flexible situations. And really the only fast move pressure from Beelzeboy was from the charge bug if it gets aligned outside of the Gligar, and the incinerates from the Skeldurge being just such a huge piece of fast move pressure. So if Panic can manage to get away from those and kind of manage that fast move pressure, then we're going to see a lot of energy farm downs and a lot of energy leads to kind of just pressure. But both the teams have a lot of bulk as well. So we got 2 Azumarill, we've got a Lickitung and a Cresselia, we've got a Mandibuzz, and then of course if the Charjabug is in there, it's very, very strong as well. We do have the team sheets here. The Charjabug for Beelzeboy is running standard Discharge X Scissor, as is Panic a lot, so no surprises with a Crunch. Both of them are also Volt switches, so again, no surprises with the Spark not being present. Beelzeboy is running Grass Knot Moonblast, and Panic is running Aerial Ace Dark Pulse on the Mandibuzz instead of the Foul Play, which we have seen from time to time. The rest of it would be pretty standard. I think if you're going to see Azumarills in this current meta, they're mostly going to be running Ice Beam and Play Rough. It's very rare in closed team sheet or in open team sheets that you're going to be seeing a Hydro Pump, because it gets a lot of its power from the surprise, if you will. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think now that we got these move sets here?
I mean, I think the movesets are very typical of what you have with open team sheets, right? The spicy moveset, it loses its flair when they know it's coming, and then you rely on baits and things. So this is probably how I would play it. When you know the movesets, you just pick what's going to be the more generally have more play in the general meta. So no real surprises there. The only thing is to know that it's the Snarl, Mandibuzz, Snarl and Dark Pulse, not Aerial Ace and Foul Play. But yeah, I think with all that said, the interest is there letting these guys throw down. So let's jump right into these matchups.
So game 1, we've got Vigoroth into Charjabug.
Yeah, Vigoroth into Charger. It's fairly neutral matchup, but there is, I think, in the ones a slight advantage towards that Vigoroth, because it can just go straight body slam and get the job done here. X Scissor, though, look at this. We're into the yellow health, no shield coming from Sir Panicolor.
Yeah, if the other thing too is if you don't go into the kind of body slam situation and committing shields in the zeros, you can do what Panic has designed his team to do, which is that whole of farm down range. So we might see him just soft lose this here, get into a farm down range, and that's exactly what he's opting to do. He's going to kind of throw the Rock Slide and then bring in his Gligar, where Beelzeboy escapes immediately to try to rip off an Aqua Tail, but it does not look like there was a 1-turn switch here. So he's going to be able to get the Aqua Tail before the Aerial Ace comes down. Yeah,
that's very telling. And another no shield. Panic really worrying about his shields down the track. It looks like he's trying to set up some sort of Charjabug sweep in the back. And there gets the first shield from Beelzeboy. Now does he invest the shield here in these Gligar?
I think he's going to do that because he's just got not enough bulk in the back to kind of make sure that Charjabug sweeps. And I'm thinking that, if you're in his shoes here, you're kind of just hoping and praying that there's no Skeldurge and you just sweep in the back. I think is probably what he's looking at that team comp. If he can just get enough pressure onto this Aerial Ace and get it into a farm down range and just kind of soak here, then he's going to be sitting pretty with energy up, like we talked about in the opening, and then just going to opt to double shield here his Gligar.
Oh, and a switch here immediately. Potentially Beelzeboy thinking that Quag has some use in the back. Throws the dig and Vigoroth shields. So this really looks like Beelzeboy setting themselves up for a really nice spot. In comes the Charger Bug. Down on energy here. This is not where Fine Panic or Sir Panic-a-Lot, sorry, what's the V?
Yeah, Panic setting up a lot of this to get that energy lead, but just not having enough from his whole team comp to be able to get there. We're going to see a quick rip of this X-Scissor and pray that he can kind of deal with the rest, but it's just not looking that good for game one here as we get to another Rock Slide to seal down this Charge Bug, shiny Charge Bug, no less.
Shiny Charge Bug does go down. And so what we've seen here now is actually a better energy management from Beelzeboy. We thought Panic-a-Lot was going to set himself up with that, but it actually ended up going the way of Beelzeboy there. And I think the Quagsire was really the difference maker in that. It just had such a strong matchup there against the Gligar and just couldn't come back, especially after using that second shield.
Beelzeboy going up into this roster with a very, very safe Quagsire Vigoroth kind of combination. And then with the Charjabug having so many easy targets and neutral targets against Sir Panic-a-Lot, we might just see a identical team mismatched again, or even same order. I think from what Panic could maybe to anticipate here, while the Skeledirge is very, very helpful to go against the majority of the team, the safety that he was able to get with a Vigoroth and Charjabug together with the pressure onto a Gligar was very, very strong in that game one, just putting him up with the advantage.
Yeah, I mean, you probably feel like you can run it back pretty safely. And I mean, I think if I had that kind of game, how it went that way, I'd be like, why not? Got 2 targets for my Quagsire and a neutral Vigoroth, which I can outpace the Aquatails. Let's keep it going.
Right. We might see Panic actually iterate a bit more rather than running the same team. But as we get into game number 2 here, we will see shortly what we're going to get in an encounter. And indeed, it is a little bit of a change up in the order, and the Cresselias come instead of the Charjabug. On Panic's side, he has the Azumarill that he loves so much is now sitting safely in the back without a Charjabug, but with a Cresselia having to deal with it later.
Yeah, both trainers electing to leave their Charjabug at home. And a swap into the Vigoroth here. And there's both going up with plenty of energy here. And we can see they're both one short of another Body Slam. Body Slam going unshielded now. You'd think Panic is going to dip here to preserve that Vigoroth. No, opting to stay in. And is he going to have to use his first shield here or let his Vigoroth go down?
I think he's just going to take the shield because he's got the energy, and then maybe he'll throw one counter before switching or throw it again. Yes, it looks like he's going to go ahead and just dump this energy. This would not KO, but would get it very, very close to the red and set up for farm down, but he's still going to just bring in the Azumarill here, keep those switch clocks misaligned as they have been, and maybe tank a little bit of damage here with the Azumarill and soak up and just take that energy into the next matchup. Hopefully scouting to see what he's got in the back with energy, and Azumarill is a relatively safe strategy moving in here.
Yeah, and the Azu's just got so much bulk. It just eats up all of these body slams. It is going to be put into the yellow after this, but a third body slam, if he cannot farm down before the third body slam comes out. Oh, and a swap into Cresselia here. Beelzeboy getting aggressive with the swap in, leaving that Vigoroth in the red, and Playrock comes through. This is not going to do as much as you'd like to that Cresselia. These are both bulky boys, and Cresselia has that super effective grass knot.
It's very, very interesting here that Beelzeboy is going to continue keeping those switch clocks at a disadvantage for his opponent. Keeping that swap is something that he wants to hold, and maybe even getting up a bunch of energy before the next damage iteration from Azumarill, going to get this grass knot to hopefully knock out and keep the energy and the switch advantage going. Moving into the final part of this matchup, we have a Moonblast coming in against Sir Panic-a-Lot's Shadow Gligar that's come in at the end here. Opts for the no shield, takes it down to nearly into the yellow, and probably going to have really good timing to throw right before charged attack priority into the KO range.
Oh, but using a shield here from Beelzeboy. Wants to get under that grass knot. Oh no, opting for a Moonblast here, in fact. And is going to get that last shield. So we're all shields down now. I mean, maybe the attack debuff is really what Beelzeboy needs to get back into this match. Both opponents have red health Pokemon attack, and they've all 6 Pokemon, sorry, are still available here. This dig is going to do a lot of damage.
Beelzeboy also sticking with that a charged attack from the previous one to try to punish with the switch clocks. Knows that Sir Panic-a-Lot doesn't have that switch clock. Is going to opt for a very low charge nice on the Aqua Tail here to hopefully get the KO, but not get enough energy on the close, and pray that this Vigoroth can maybe get a catch on his other Pokemon. Is going to be maybe Beelzeboy's only out, but it does look like he's gonna get the catch on the Aqua Tail. What a play by Panic. Throws the single weight into his Vigoroth, doesn't even show the counter, and then gets the counter down with the Vigoroth going up energy and praying that he's gonna be able to get the knockout. We will see if this matters in the end game. Comes
so the
in
catch
with the Cresselia.
is available. It's all about this catch here.
Reads the catch beautifully and will finish the game 1-1 with a body slam on the Cresselia. What an incredible read. Not only for the brilliant catch on the Aqua Tail with the pausing a turn before switching into the catch, but also just being willing to continually tap the screen and patiently wait for the Vigoroth swap attempt to come in.
Yeah, it's knowing
Masterful.
It's knowing your counts and just timing. So a catch was required, right? The catch needed to be there to get the win. So well played by Sir Panic-a-Lot. And both people put Charger Bug in the back. I really think Beelzeboy brings that Charger Bug back now. And as long as it stays away from that Gligar, it's going to be able to do plenty of good work.
Panic bringing the Gligar and the Vigoroth in 2 out of 2 matches is probably a big indicator that Beelzeboy will also be bringing the Vigoroth, if not the Skeledirge in game 3. But that Quagsire has been doing so much work, and if it wasn't for the catch, could have potentially gotten even more out of it in that last match. So we're going to be really seeing a battle of the pregame, if you will, and the team reads is really going to tell the story, I think, for our game 3 here. But the masterful plays in both game 1 and game 2 is top notch.
Yeah, I think we might even see a double water strat here from Beelzeboy. That extra bulk from the Azzy then allows to save the shields for that Quagsire, because Quagsire, no doubt, is the key to victory here for Beelzeboy, and needs to do it, and needs to do it well. So we'll see what he goes as we go into game 3 now.
Yeah, game 3. Again, the Charger Bug comes out right away for Panic against a double water ABA strategy from Beelzeboy, who's now swapped. And we'll get to the Aqua Tail instead of going for a full energy up on a Stone Edge threat. Opts to take the chance of getting the Aqua Tail with the desyncing of the fast attacks to get some damage quicker.
Yeah, trying to really maximize the effects that Quagsire can have. And the insta-swap into the shiny. Man, Sir Panic is running a lot of shiny Pokemon today. Lickitung obviously having the grass Power Whip, which will absolutely dominate his Shadow Quagsire. There's the Stone Edge, almost into the yellow, but not quite. But I think at this point, with this health on the Lickitung and the Quagsire, maybe even just going for Body Slams and Licks is going to be the better play for Beelzeboy. Sorry, for Sir Panic-a-Lot.
Yeah, Panic has got this ABB strategy going this time around with the double normals. We still don't know what Beelzeboy's third is just yet with seeing the double water, and is still holding on to life. We do see the last one is the Vigoroth here. And that would have been the Quagsire with Azumarill and Vigoroth. Now we're going to see a Body Slam come in. Keeping these strategy of the switch clocks being misaligned seems to be Beelzeboy's talent for the day. We see a Vigoroth coming back in here and getting ready to absorb some damage.
This is such a safe spot for Panic, having 2 shields left. You know all the Pokemon there. He can basically find his win con at will here. And go straight for the Body Slam. CMP! That looked like a CMP tie. So huge here. If this takes out Beelzeboy's Vigoroth, this is such a dominant spot. Oh, it survives 1 HP!
Yep, it doesn't ever really get there in this situation. Probably is going to just go ahead and safely no shield here and take the final water type with a quick swap for getting some energy. Brilliant play. Has 2 shields. Bubbles being like not threatening at all, is probably just going to get ready to throw discharge after discharge, committing the shields and closing this Azumarill down with the electric damage. Very, very safe position to be finding yourself into in this closing matchup. The riskiness of running the ABB strategy, getting to be relatively punishing, and they're going to spend that shield here. Hopefully, going to be able to not take too much damage and get off a X-Scissor to KO.
Yeah, it does need one move here. X-Scissor will KO this Shadow Quag, and it's still going to need just a little bit more than, I think, one discharge to get this Azu, but the Volt Switches will do a lot of damage. Has the shield up their sleeve. There's no way this Azu is going to bubble this thing down. So here comes the discharge there. And what you can learn from this as well is, so Panic, whilst he threw 2 Volt Switches to get over the charge moves, so he's used 8 fast moves versus the opponent's 9 fast moves plus the charge. So still min-maxing, even though he's going to win the game, still playing those absolute win cons and just doing the best you can.
That's something to keep in mind as we move forward in the other matches that we might be catching from Beelzeboy. You guys need to watch how masterfully he tries to commit so hard to those switch clock misalignments. If the opponent doesn't switch right away, he's going to try to continually stay ahead on the switch clocks to keep the surprising moving there. I think that we're going to get another match coming up, just as a quick preview. But congratulations to Panic-a-Lot going up 2-1 against Beelzeboy and advancing once here. We're going to probably be swapping to our match number 2 against Gamebird from Taiwan and Goji from Korea. We're going to be passing it over to Claire and to Steve whenever they are ready. But I'll wait for them to say anything otherwise. But Panic-a-Lot showing his triple shiny team against Beelzeboy's squad, and Beelzeboy not even opting for the Skeledirge on a single game was very interesting to me. Maybe just a little bit of extra fear for getting matched up against the stuff that it doesn't want to see, or really just that commitment to sticking with the threat, the looming threat that is Shadow Quagsire's Stone Edge on literally anything is terrifying. And then just kind of neutral stuff with the Aquatail makes it very, very scary. But we will be able to get you guys through. We're running into some technical difficulties today, so we're just kind of getting that situated behind the scenes at the moment. But I don't want to take too much away from the kind of team comp analysis from our next casters, because that's the teams we have looking in front of us here. Yeah, let's go ahead.
I mean, I'm enjoying the spice. I enjoy the spice of what's in front of me. And as much as I want to steal it, I want to steal all the thunder of these teams, because Goji's team looks absolutely insane. But yeah, let's throw it over to Steve and Claire. Let's go.
All right, take it away.
Oh, hi everyone. I forgot to hit the unmute button, but hopefully we're all good. Claire, do you just want to give a good day, and then chat can just confirm whether... Oh no, I can't hear you. That's a problem. Hang on, I know how to... have you unmuted in Video Ninja, Claire? We're squashing technical difficulties on the fly, because that is the professional organization that we are here. But of course, brilliant first battles coming in from Panic. I mean, just clutching victory from some pretty tight spots there, especially in that game number 2. But Claire, I've pulled up a possible version number 2. Can we hear you fine? Uh-oh. I can't hear Claire. Chat, can you guys hear Claire potentially? Or do we maybe have to throw it back to Rob and Trotter for another match while we try and sort this on the down low? I think this was okay. Chat can't hear Claire. So Rob and Trotter, if you're ready, we might have to throw it back to you guys. Claire and I will sort of hopefully return at the next at match number 3. But hey, we're going to figure it all out. Regardless, Trotter and Rob are going to get their wish in getting to talk about these absolutely nutty matchups between Gamebird and Goji, because these are some pretty sick teams. So we'll see you on the other side of this one. Oh, I didn't actually click the button, apparently. My bad. Bing bong, bing bong.
Hey, we're back.
We're back. Oh man, I'm sorry, audience. It's far more visually appealing to watch Steve and Claire, but you're stuck with us scruffy ruffians.
Yeah, we
Um,
got the double beard
well,
squad back.
yeah, what is this team? We've got a Wigglytuff, we've got a double flyer, Goji, oh man, Talonflame, and then on the other side we've got Gator and Skarmory.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting, I think, from both players' points of view. If you're kind of sitting in the team comp screen, just trying to figure out what's going on with your opponent is really, really tough. One of the only teams of the top 6, there's only 2 teams that are running Skarmory, and Goji has to play against them in this opening match. And Gamebird's Skarmory is really, really threatening to the Wigglytuff in particular. But has a lot of outs with this Giratina from the looks of things. It looks very strong against almost the whole team, but Gamebird has both a Lick user with Lickitung and a Shadow Claw user with threats on, on the Feraligatr. And looking at this team roster, Feraligatr is running Ice Beam. So you're going to be able to see that additional threat against dragons and flyers. And Mantine is also running Water Pulse, which does much better against the kind of like getting that extra bit of stab damage or a same type attack bonus in neutral matchups if you need to threaten things like steals in particular. But without the Ice Beam, doesn't quite one-shot the Gligar. Does do a lot of damage with the Water Pulse still, but I think it's just that added reliability that we're going to be looking for. And again, Talonflame not running Double Fly and Brave Bird, but opting for the Flame Charge Fly variant. If you guys are wondering about how those are rolling through here. And the Annihilate is a Night Slash Shadow Ball standard Annihilate for you all today. Charge Bug is also a standard X Scissor and Discharge variant as I'm looking here at the roster. And then no surprises with Dragon Pulse from the Giratina. So we're going to be running Ominous Wind and Shadow Ball there. However, Whiscash is running Scald Mud Bomb, which is kind of what we've been seeing in the past. No surprise blizzards today. Thankfully, won't have to worry about shielding that if you're running your flyers. And I don't know. This is a real big predicament on Goji's side. It seems to have a lot of very safe options with this Registeel, actually. Only kind of afraid of one thing.
Yeah, I mean, in the same with like Wigglytuff, only really going to be afraid of the Skarmory on the opposite side. So, looking really good. But then on the other side, if Gamebird's Feraligatr can get into a positive spot, it's going to do a lot. So Goji may potentially do something to bring that out. And then what we'll be able to do is then once that Feraligator's gone, that Giratina, the the Registeel become a lot safer once again. So it could, be an interesting to see the style of play here because these two teams stylistically give each other like big ways of winning and big ways of losing, and it could be one of those very, very alignment based matchups, or alternatively it could be another one where you drawing out that very specific Pokemon that's going to beat your Registeel and then just like annihilating the backline with just the big hitting damage that it can output. So going to be a really fun one, I feel here.
I also really like this Mantine. The pick here is so neutral into basically the whole team outside of, like you said, it looks like most of these team comp things for Goji's side have a lot of like single Pokemon threats that are relatively polarized, and that's about it. It's like if you can dodge the one Pokemon or go up energy in a single matchup and then see the thing you don't want to see, you're going to be positioning yourselves quite a bit. So I really, really like that idea, but I'm also really curious if we can see the Giratina where it's going to go, because I always love seeing Giratina in these games. But I think we got a confirmation that we can go ahead and push through to the next match. So we're going to go ahead and see what we see first. So let's get into the match. We see Lickitung versus Mantine right away. Gamebird's team is able to be seen with the Feraligatr and Shadow Gligar waiting in the back, but we don't know what Goji's running. So we're going to take the Gamebird point of view here.
Yeah, well, we can predict there's probably something that's got to counter the Charger Bug, so potentially a Whiscash in the back. And then it comes through the first move there, and here we go, Body Slam time from this Lickitung. Power Whip's still going to be neutral and do slightly more damage, but going for a lick body slam alternative here, and no shield coming through. Both opponents just hitting the yellow health, and we're getting closer to be able to knock something out. And another no shield coming from Gamebird, not willing to lose a shield here against the Mantine. Never feels good to shield. Oh, and it is an aerial ace. So now we are in. Yes, this Power Whip will KO. Will Goji read it, or is he just thinking this is another body slam here?
This could be a very good setup for Goji as he comes in on the Lickitung to get up energy with his Incinerate user to threaten the backline. Now going to be tanking a body slam before he gets the Incinerate to confirm, not knowing that the Feraligatr is in fact in the back. Will be able to dump a fly before taking any damage, which is very nice if they opt for that. Probably not very safe to go into a flame charge in this situation, so we'll probably just see the fly and dip. So let's see what we see. There is the fly, and it does switch into the Registeel versus Gligar, looking like Gamebird is on the offensive yet again.
On the offensive, but down shields. So it does get to the dig here. Dig will just outpace ahead of the Zap Cannon from Registeel, but gonna need to. Oh, does shield the dig? Interestingly, because Dig does not one-hit KO Registeel. It does need 2 digs to take it out from here, with the wing attacks doing nothing. There's the Zap Cannon. No debuff. They were fishing for the
just wants to
debuff.
get the shield without the debuff, I would imagine.
So here we go.
We see it. Do we see it land is the real question.
This one has to land here. Oh, it's shielding. Oh my goodness.
It's just gonna opt to shield and try to pray for the second one to land, or and KO, or get the debuff. We're gonna see here. It does not. We're gonna get to see the farm down lock-ons. Rare a sight indeed.
This is tricky here, because if this Registeel gets to a charge move here before the Feraligatr can knock it out, it's going to be very close to fly range. It's going to need to throw the second one. Oh, and a switch out here. This feels like Gamebird can really just time the moves now with this. It's only got one fast move away, from the double Hydro Cannon. Down goes the Talonflame. And has a shield up their sleeve here.
Interesting. Yeah, this is relatively risky. It looks like Goji was just going to try to get the catch of that Hydro Cannon once it was on Gamebird's Feraligatr, and didn't manage to get the catch, and instead gave him even more energy before the second Incinerate was able to get ripped, and had enough energy to kind of just double cannon into the finish line. Very, very good game knowledge by Gamebird here, utilizing the thickness of the Lickitung matchup to kind of just allow your opponent to have a little bit of energy. Make sure you're removing the Mantine, which is the one thing that his Gligar doesn't want to see, and pray that there's no problems in the back. Once you see that Talonflame, you feel really safe with your Gligar and your Feraligatr just to take that matchup, whichever one you want, and use Gligar to hopefully clean up any other problems in the back. Very, very, very good there. And even having an Ice Beam for the Flyers, if necessary, was or the Giratina, excuse me, was very good. Love to see that first game going to Gamebird there. We will see what pivot comes from Goji here. What are you thinking, Trotter, going into game?
Well, I'm seeing Talonflame is out. It ended up being quite a big liability with Feraligatr being such a threat there. I can't see it being used again. I think something like Giratina and Wigglytuff are coming in. I see a massive flip in how Goji approaches this second match, because there was just way too much for that Feraligatr just to put on everything. So I think we'll see something looking a little bit different there. Probably Mantine as well, Wigglytuff, and whatever else you feel like using.
Yeah, I know that a lot of times we're going to spend in this analysis stage, but I really think that it kind of just tends to be a coin flip in this matchup, at least for Goji's point of view. Like we were saying, because you see sometimes the Pokemon that you don't want to see on the Mon that you put in, and there's only one Pokemon that it's weak to. Those games tend to be a bit polarizing, kind of just having to go for those catches. But let's go ahead and jump into game 2 if we don't mind here, and see what we got. We got a Lickitung versus a Talonflame in the opener, and Trotter, What happened to the Talonflame being out?
Man, well, maybe that's the games that we play here. You know, they're looking at that Skarmory and that Charger Bug and that Annihilate. Have to bring the Talonflame, right? It's the best
I
counter
guess
for it.
so.
And then it
I
lands
guess so.
here.
Yeah, keeping those switch clocks misaligned. Go ahead and take in this matchup with the Talonflame against the Shadow Gligar. Not sure if this matchup is going to be that favorable, but maybe this is indicative of what we're going to see Goji packing in the back, that they're staying so long here. This double aerial ace comes in.
I think Goji quite happy to stay here, knowing that there's going to be a Feraligatr in the back. So just trying to get some maximum benefit out of this Talonflame. And will we see them? Are they getting switch here? Oh, shields!
Okay. Gonna go ahead and opt for the shields and the farm down. Going down 2-1. We see the Wigglytuff coming in. Gonna soak the dig or not? That's the real question. How confident are we that this is gonna be a useful Pokemon on the back? Okay. And then we see the Registeel is the final piece.
Yeah, it is. And I think they're probably setting up for a Wigglytuff sweep in the back here.
It's very likely, but we did shield this.
Those licks aren't going to be doing a lot. If this is a Zap Cannon, this thing's taken out. Even Registeel going to be quite dominant from this point onwards.
Yeah, knowing that the Gligar is completely empty, knowing that this KOs, and knowing that you have a little bit of extra energy to go into the Lickitung matchup to land that Focus Blast, we could see a catch attempt here. But if Goji's tracking here, they know that the switch clocks are not going to be ready until the first charge move. So now charge moves are done for the Lickitung, and the switch clock is going to be up very soon. So if you can just rip this, yep, does go for the Focus Blast immediately. Going to make sure that it gets it off before the catch attempt is made. And then we're going to see if a catch is going to be made here on this Gligar. And if it is, we could even just see the Wigglytuff coming in. Don't really even know. Probably just going to wait and wait and wait. Throws the move anyways.
Yeah, one turn fast move, sorry, makes it really hard to get the catch off. Players at this level very able to count that timing, but yeah, unable to get that catch exactly on that right time. So Goji really doing nicely, keeping that Talonflame away from the Feraligatr. As soon as it was 2 shields down, yeah, Registeel with the nukes there was sitting pretty strong in that matchup.
Equalizes with the Talonflame that was not supposed to be in this match, according to DrTrotter. But that's the mind game that you play. Sometimes these people are playing 4D chess when you're trying to play checkers, and it doesn't really work out for you. But let me say this. I believe in game 1, the Lickitung was also in the front as a neutral pick, and so a little bit of a soft answer. We see a third match with the Wigglytuff coming in, able to get both favorable matchups that you want to see outside of the Annihilate, and is going to be able to soak some damage here.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing these charms just ripping through, and I think that's a big advantage of the Feraligatr is normally the Shadow Claws doing fast move damage, but they are doing diddly squat here to this Wigglytuff. It's all Hydro Cannons. And is he going to let this go? Goji let this go? Or is he going to shield and go for farm down? There's the shield. Did they get the farm down before comes in? It should get there through. They get to the move. And yes, the game operates correctly. Farm down, has energy on Wigglytuff. Is something's going to get debuffed. And then, you know, really that one shield is just setting up this Wigglytuff so nicely. And licks are going to do absolutely nothing here.
This is just such a great recognition of your win condition, knowing that the Pokemon that they switch to also has double resisted fast moves, and you can just shield once and farm it down is very good recognition. Not panicking and making that call immediately upon the Pokemon swapping is just great game sense from Goji here, setting up to potentially just only see 2 of his Pokemon for the rest of this match is pretty impressive. But we will see probably another Icy Wind. Yep. And then we do see the debuff cleared from the Gligar attempting to get up energy, and sees the Whiscash, which is going to be able to be up energy as a Gligar against a Whiscash, and also up shields. This might be flippable depending on what Goji's got in the back.
This is definitely flippable for Gamebird in this scenario. Scald debuffs now entering the fray just to
Yeah.
see what really happens here. There's the first Scald, and we don't have a
No
debuff.
debuff.
It's not 100% anymore.
All right. Well, we're gonna see another go up to the dig, and a aerial ace going here. Not for the bait. Likely just gonna use this to get more energy rather, and to double shield the second one. We will see if we get the debuff yet again. Here we go. The debuff coin flipping has begun, and yet again, no debuffs. Gonna get that maximum energy and going for the CMP. Wins charged attack priority. Gonna throw this. Does this KO? It might not in the normal. It's gonna be close. Yep, there we go. Gets the KO. Here's the final pick. Are we gonna see Wigglytuff return for the end? Oh, we have a concession. A concession from Goji. Does not have any options. Potentially just has a Registeel in the back would probably be what we see there, and up energy. That is a GG. Very, very well played by our player from the Taiwan region. Thank you so much for the battles, trainers. Goji going down 1-2. Gamebird advancing in Swiss with a 1-0 record. And no Skarmory or Annihilate to be seen whatsoever. GG's trainers, we're just getting some situations set up in the background to get you guys your next casters, and we might kick it out to the main menu as it will. Our next match will be Yekai versus Bjpawat. So Yekai again going to be from Hong Kong, and BJ from Thailand. We're gonna send it all the way over to our next casters.
All right, Claire, let's try this thing again. G'day, chat. How are we?
Okay, hopefully everyone can hear me this time. Yay! Very happy about that.
Look, I can hear Claire, so hopefully you guys all can as well. And we are finally going into round number 3 of this Swiss tournament. And it looks like chat is confirming that we can hear the RocketClare. So Claire, happy to have your voice back into things. Now, we've seen 2 matches so far. Again, this is a Swiss tournament, so those were the first 2 matches of the first 2, and then at the bottom, well, this is the 3rd match in the first round of Swiss, Yekai versus Bjpawat. And so, I can bring the 0-0 back on screen now. And now, Claire, we're going into some very similar teams here, as opposed to some of those shenanigans we saw in that sort of second round. What's the first thing that's sort of striking you between Yakai's team with Cresselia, Quagsire, Chargebug, and Vigoroth to Bjpawat's team with Cresselia, Quagsire, Chargebug, and Vigoroth?
I feel like you've really led me into that one, Steve. Obviously, it stands out that there are quite a few similarities with these teams. We are seeing Chargebug pop up a lot. Not too surprising. It's a really strong Pokemon in the meta with really excellent coverage. Interesting to see so many Cresselia coming to these battles. Tends to be something people are leaning towards more now, I think, rather than the Lickitung as a bulky option that has that grass move, but slightly different properties to Lickitung, but plays a similar role. We've also got the 2 flyers, slightly different in what they can and can't do. I believe head-to-head Mandibuzz has the upper hand against a Skarmory. However, a pretty close matchup all round this one. The one that really stands out here for me is, being a Shadow Gligar lover and user myself, we don't really like to see something like a Dugong on the other team. It just makes it that much less flexible. And look, to be honest, Gligar can be such an overpowering Pokemon if you don't have a counter for it. So it makes it pretty exciting to see. I don't see anything having particularly free reign in this matchup. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm actually entirely in agreement. It feels like a matchup that's very much away from the sort of hard counters, and we're going to be into this more neutral play, skill-based play potentially, where as long as you avoid that, Dugong into Gligar matchup, you actually have quite a bit of range where you can sort of move around. Now, one Pokemon I really actually quite like on sort of both teams, but especially Yakai's, is that Shadow Quagsire, because it feels like in most matchups you've got play. Now, Cresselia is obviously a pretty bad matchup when that super effective Grass Knot comes right through. Grass Knot isn't known as a high damage move, but when you're a Quagsire, that's about as high a damage move as you can get. And so, in all of the other matchups, if you're against a Chargebug or a Vigoroth or a Dugong or a Mandibuzz, or on the other side, even a Gligar or a Skarmory, you at least have this really spammy, it's 4 Mudshots to an Aqua Tail, which is incredibly quick to get these really, really spammy moves off. And we do, because this is open team sheets, they do have all of the moves, and we can confirm that both Quagsires are running Aqua Tail Stone Edge. It looks like all standard moves on this front across the board for all 6 Pokemon on both teams. And so I feel like Quagsire is sort of the Pokemon that you're going to want to protect a little bit, with the only other sort of real option, potential shield sucker, is going to be that Vigoroth. Who is going to be sort of running around as another really neutral option that maybe is actually the safer pick, Claire, because you don't have to worry about that Grass Knot like Quagsire does.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm enjoying seeing Vigoroth coming back into the meta and being more widely used. We're seeing a little bit less of the Annihilates, which gives Vigoroth a bit more room to move and not so much getting hard walled. It does have play against just about everything, and particularly now that it has Rock Slide, it's a really exciting one to use. I'm really excited to see how these battles play out.
Yeah, look, as we've sort of said, this is going to be a very neutral matchup, and I think that all picks are viable going into these games. So let's just jump into game number 1. Yakai on the left, BJ on the right-hand side. It looks like we only have the one side of footage for this one, and we're going to have a Chargebug mirror match to start it off. Now, we don't know what BJ is running, but on Yakai's side, we can see that Cresselia in the back is not a Pokemon that particularly likes to match up into this Chargebug, and so Yakai may not necessarily want to swap out here with this sort of ABA structure, and is really going to just hope, I think, that Cresselia Vigoroth is going to be a combo that can take out BJ's back line, which, to be honest, I feel like it's a pretty solid call.
Yeah, it's a little bit hard without seeing, so BJ's gone for the swap. Probably quite tactical there, because you could see that Yakai was winning CMP with the Chargebug, so he was going to win that matchup anyway. So BJ bringing in the Vigoroth. Vigoroth's a great counter to Chargebug. Not so great to Cresselia, which has now come in from Yakai as an answer. So at least I think BJ thinking ahead, trying to flip around that matchup, switch it around, see what else he can bring in to not necessarily just play out that obviously leading matchup.
Yeah, Vigoroth is known as a safe swap Pokemon. Unfortunately, when you're up against a Cresselia, you are resisting those counters, and it does become a little bit more tricky for Vigoroth. But look how much damage that this Vigoroth is actually still adding up to this Cresselia. Like, it's actually getting quite low. You're down below half health. You've now got the opportunity to go for the Moonblast here, and BJ doesn't shield it. They let the Vigoroth go, bringing Chargebug back in, who does have access to that super effective X-Scissors. And so now Yakai is really going to have to look at those protect shields and go, do I want to keep this Cresselia around? And at least for this first one, it's going to be a yes, but you do have to start throwing your charge moves soon.
That's right. And obviously, Chargebug's so good against Cresselia, but Cresselia had a lot of energy, and throwing this Moonblast now, it'll be interesting to see if BJ just lets this one go. No, he's going to preserve the Chargebug, try and preserve that advantage. Oh, what a catch.
Wow.
Yakai timing that perfectly to bring in his Chargebug to catch that X-Scissor and preserve the Cresselia.
Yeah, and unfortunately does let BJ still get to 2 additional Volt Switches, because he just had that little bit of health left on that Chargebug, and so now has to make a bit of a call here. I feel like because his Vigoroth has so much health, that this is going to be quite a strong Pokemon to sort of come in, soak a charge move. You do have the option of burning that Protect Shield as well. Now, he's going to let this first X-Scissor go, but Vigoroth is actually quite a bulky Pokemon in the grand scheme of things, and you only need to get to 1 Body Slam, but that Body Slam is caught onto, I'm actually not sure what Pokemon came in. I thought I saw blue. I thought it might have been a Quagsire, but it looks like the Body Slam is instead. It is going to be that Quagsire with that 1 Protect Shield remaining, but Claire, these counters are seriously adding up.
They are adding up, but the Quagsire is building up so much energy, and I guess now he's potentially got a couple of Aquatails to throw. If Yakai lets this go, might just survive. Okay, and there's not much left on his Cresselia either. He's got to that grass knot just in time. But yeah, this is getting really, really close. Potentially, yeah, okay. So BJ's at another Aquatail. Yakai has got a shield.
Oh, no!
Yakai's in time. Okay, I would have thought he would have thrown the Aquatail there.
Yeah, I'm wondering if BJ was potentially going for like a catch and it just sort of didn't end up working out, because I feel like that Quagsire had so much energy that you potentially you could have just thrown back-to-back Aquatails. Now, I guess, Yakai is still here with a shield, so the first one would have burned the first shield, the second one would have KO'd, and then you would have had to get to another one, and maybe this Vigoroth would have just been able to body slam you away. But Yakai taking this one out, I really feel like BJ was in quite a strong position there.
Yeah, that is a real shame, because if he could have at least gotten off Aquatail, like you say, tried to get a shield, it maybe would have made it more even in the end game. But yeah, really difficult when Yakai still had a shield there. Really hard to think quickly in those last dying seconds.
Yeah, that's for sure. But as we were talking about, where we don't have a lot of hard counter scenarios here, it really does come down to that, where you sort of make one mistake and your opponent just needs to sort of see the line, see how to exploit that mistake, and see the win con. And in this game, Yakai was really able to do that, just sort of see with the door that BJ sort of left open, and Yakai is just walking up going like, hey, I will take this win any day of the week, because they're really we saw BJ bring in the Quagsire as well, and I think that Yakai's Vigoroth does work decently well as a counter. But as we saw, I guess I should say, as we didn't quite see, that Quagsire was able to charge up its attacks quite quickly as well. And so it almost makes me wonder, like, is Vigoroth enough? Or do you need to potentially lean into that little bit of, not necessarily RPS, but that little bit of hard counter scenario in bringing that Cresselia in?
Yeah, that's a really good point, but I really feel like that battle was won and lost from the start. You could see that BJ saw that he was losing CMP in the Charger Bug mirror match, and from there felt that he had to change things up. It's not the greatest position to be in. It's not like losing lead in a hard case scenario. He could have just played that out and brought something in to farm the Charger Bug, but it's a really, really tricky one, because you do sort of want to try and perhaps preserve your own Charger Bug and not necessarily just lose the opening game. And I feel he felt his Charger Bug, he probably needed to maybe keep it for a potential scum or for something in the back. It's those split-second decisions, and sometimes it can put you at a disadvantage, and it's very difficult to come back from.
Yeah, no, that's true. And look, Cresselia isn't exactly the Pokemon that BJ's Vigoroth wanted to see on the swap, but look, we'll get into game number 2 and see how BJ sort of adjusts. I guess both battlers now also having that knowledge that Yakai is likely to win those Charge Bug on Charge Bug matchups, which I think tends to make the person who loses those charge attack priority scenarios be less inclined to put it in the lead. But we'll see if that sort of comes into play as we jump into game number 2 with Yakai actually seeing the Bjpawat's charge bug on the other side, with Vigoroth coming in the lead this time, which still not a bad spot for Yakai, because these rock slides really do add up.
Yeah, this is a little bit unfortunate for BJ. I'd say this is an even sort of more difficult matchup to be in. Vigoroth is quite happy against Charger Bug, threatening the Rock Slide, and as you can see, baiting with the Body Slam. This is always that guess, because the Rock Slide will just about take the Charger Bug out from there, so you have to be very careful.
Ooh.
Okay, so BJ calling that bait, that was a very good call there.
Yeah, when you're in these spots where you're in a bit of a bad spot, sometimes you just need to make that good call to get yourself back on the right side of the line. And BJ in with a good start here. Also getting a shield out of Yakai. We see the swap into Vigoroth, but Yakai is still packing the Cresselia in the back. So we're back here. It's a very similar spot where both battlers have swapped out, and we have this Cresselia in a pretty good spot against this Vigoroth. No reason for any sort of bait shenanigans going on from the Vigoroth, but Yakai still going to put the pressure onto BJ, because he has to make the call. Do you think it is the Moonblast again? And this time the Moonblast is going to go through and take that Vigoroth down to below half health, and we are basically in grass knot range at this point. It's a scary spot to be in for BJ.
It sure is. I tell you what, though, how tanky is Vigoroth? Do you think it's that sideways cap, Steve? I don't know. Like that was pretty impressive. The Moonblast didn't do nearly as much as you would think. Cresselia already had another move, but going to have to wear another body slam, but will pretty easily survive this, I believe, and be able to get potentially just a grass knot off. It's all that they will need to send to take out that Vigoroth and to win back switch. So we'll see how this goes.
The visor may protect the Vigoroth from the sun, but it's not going to protect it from that grass knot. And now the Charge Bug coming in, going to have to face another Moonblast coming in from Yakai. There is still a Protect Shield up on BJ's side, so can opt to protect this Charge Bug, but no, going to put all... Oh, wait, no, it survives. Barely, and now it is going to be all on the Quagsire. BJ has 2 shields to Yakai's 1 and has that potential for a catch on that 1 HP Charge Bug in the back. The question is this game going to go long enough to see it play out? Because now Yakai is just pummeling Bjpawat with so many charge attacks. Now seeing the Vigoroth come in for a body slam going into this Quagsire, and with 1 shield still remaining, we're going to see another body slam.
We are. This won't quite KO, I don't think, but BJ probably wants to start using some of those shields and just preserve this Quagsire. He really needs to preserve it. Oh, he's all out of shields now. And Yakai is just going to let this go. And so we're back to a Quagsire off, Steve. I really don't know. Okay, undercharged. That's great. He's going to build up some more energy, and that potentially could give him some of the advantage he needs. Yakai still has that shield, though. I just realised. So yeah, this is looking very dire on BJ's part.
Yeah, this is definitely a rough one. I mean, you're going to try and throw as many charge attacks as possible. Here's the back-to-back Aqua Tail, but this isn't going to be enough. And even if BJ is able to throw a 3rd Aqua Tail, it is still not going to be enough to KO the Quagsire, which means BJ needs to make a catch. And there was the attempt, but Yakai waited. The high skill play of going, I know your win con, BJ. I know you need to make this catch. And I think you're going to make it now. And just really solid play from Yakai and takes out the first 2-0 of the tournament. Now, we still do have a game 3 to come, but really well played in game number 2 from Yakai.
Yeah, I feel like, again, Yakai definitely had the advantage from the start. But what I was interested in was his masterful play with Cresselia. I feel like, I don't know what his Cresselia IVs are, but that Cresselia just lasted until the very last HP and got off so many moves and so much energy, and really gave him so much advantage in that matchup. Of course, we had the Quagsire mirror at the end, and then a few shenanigans and dipping in and out of low health mons. But I feel like, you know, sometimes the game is already won in those early stages, and that's what I really saw from that battle.
Yeah, I think the difference between Cresselia that we saw here and something like a Mandibuzz, for example, is they're both very tanky Pokemon, but Mandibuzz doesn't really have a lot of damage output. It sort of throws these Dark Pulses and Aerial Aces, but they don't add up very quickly. Whereas Cresselia, Moonblast is actually a pretty decent move in terms of the damage output that it's able to put out. And so when you have Cresselia that is able to take charge attack after charge attack, you actually, as we saw in that last game, you get the opportunity to throw multiple Moonblasts. And that really sort of puts the onus on the opponent to try and figure out, where can I take a Moonblast? And at the same time, have to wrestle with the fact that every charge attack from Cresselia could just be a Grass Knot bait. It's quite sort of, I feel like it's quite a classic PvP scenario. Back in the early days of PvP, it was almost all about, is this a shield bait or not? I think the game has evolved quite a lot since then, but sometimes you do see that still shine through a little bit. And so without sort of a hard check into that Cresselia, you're sort of left really at the mercy of it quite a bit, where it can really put a lot of pressure onto your team.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like Yakai is using that in a really masterful way. I'm really interested to see what changes BJ makes in this 3rd battle, just to see if he can switch things up a bit and maybe have a more favourable lead, favourable matchup in the lead. And look, he's shown some really great gameplay as well. There's been some great catches, some uncharges. He knows what he's doing. We know he does. So, let's see if he can get one back.
Yeah, let's see. And we're starting off with a Cresselia into the Mandibuzz. Now, this is one spot where the Dark Pulses are actually going to add up into the Mandibuzz, but at the same time, you're even more scared of those Moonblast, Claire, because this is some super effective damage. And so BJ instantly has to think, do I need to burn the shield on the Moonblast? And he doesn't, which means that we are straight away going to be, oh no, in Mega Catch as well.
Oh, okay. Well, that was a crazy good catch on Yakai's part. Anticipated, he could see he wasn't in the most favourable matchup and thought, right, this is what I'm going to do next. Interesting, BJ bringing the Charger Bug into the Vigoroth. Again, like we mentioned before, not the most favourable matchup. Yakai going for the bait. And he's switching these up too, because he's not baiting with the Cresselia, but he's baiting with the Vigoroth. So always got to be thinking, what's he doing? What's he doing? But BJ called that bait, which is fortunate.
Yeah.
Already had another body slam though, Steve.
Yeah, no. Vigoroth can do one thing well. It is put out some body slam spam. But I'm really just trying to think, why has Charger Bug come out here? Because it's such a good counter into that Cresselia. I'm kind of thinking maybe the Pokemon in the back really doesn't want to see these Pokemon. Like maybe it's something like a Dugong or a Quagsire that really doesn't necessarily want to see the Vigoroth, doesn't really want to see the Cresselia. So maybe you sort of want to make sure that your Charger Bug lands in quite a good position. And now we're actually going to see Yakai bringing in that Quagsire to try and farm down the rest of BJ's Charge Bug. Is going to let this first X-Scissor come through, and Quagsire will be able to take it on the chin. Not the end of the world, but it is going to get weaker and weaker as this game goes on. So we'll see. We're actually going to see the Quagsire coming in from the back, and now Yakai has such... Oh my gosh, and the catches keep coming, Claire. Yakai catching the move into the Cresselia, and now this Quagsire is going to want to run away as soon as possible into that Mandibuzz, because Quagsire doesn't want to hang around.
Yeah, that's super interesting, catching on that Cresselia. Obviously, Quagsire needs to get out of that. Mandibuzz is the logical choice against Cresselia, but, again, like you said, we've got the Moonblast option from Cresselia, and Yakai is just sending that straight away and putting BJ back under pressure again straight away. So this obviously does quite a bit. Oh, he's going to shield it. Okay, so that preserves health on the Mandibuzz, and it's going to be there to fight another day. He's going to have to send a move soon. Or else. Oh, my goodness. Yakai got to another Moonblast, so that's unfortunate that BJ didn't. I suppose he was trying to farm down, but a little bit of miscalculation there, I think.
Yeah, well, it looks like it was actually charge attack priority. It was trying to get that move in before the Moonblast came through. Unfortunately, that's just not how the turn counts went. That Cresselia goes down, and Yakai's Quagsire is going to come in, throw these Aquatail spam, because we saw before how much Yakai was able to charge up its energy here. That Aquatail is going to go through KO the Mandibuzz, and now it is just going to be down to that Quagsire. But Claire... There's two shields sitting here on Yakai's side. There's so much energy. There's so many Aquatails ready to throw. I mean, to be honest, we could be in a game where we're going to see the timer come up before these Pokemon are actually KO'd.
Yeah, that would be a bit of a worry. Obviously, Yakai's very low on health, so has to shield everything coming his way, but he does have those two shields. So very much going to be... look at that energy, though. He's got two Aquatails, sending one now. I think he's got still more than one after he sends that. So, and look, one does so much, and BJ doesn't have any shields. So very, very unfortunate for BJ, but it looks like this one is going to KO, I'd say.
Yeah, we see that classic end-of-game stutter that for some reason happens nowadays when you have KO'd that last Pokemon, and Yakai taking out the first 3-0 of the tournament, which is quite a performance. I mean, that Cresselia, as you pointed out, for every game so far, has been such a strong Pokemon for Yakai, and we saw BJ sort of try and adjust to that in this last game. He was like, okay, that Cresselia is really powerful. What do I do here? And we saw BG bringing in that Mandibuzz, where it's like, okay, I at least have some super effective damage here. Actually, both the Mandibuzz and the Charge Bug, the two Pokemon on BJ's team that can put in that super effective damage. But in the end, I mean, the one that landed on the Cresselia was the Mandibuzz, where you do still take that super effective Moonblast damage, and it just wasn't enough in the end.
Yeah, look, it's hard to watch because you can see what BJ was trying to do, is really trying to counter that Cresselia play. Yakai was just able to get the alignment he needed, and even in the third battle, like you say, Cresselia had so much play back into the Mandibuzz, it still doesn't make it comfortable. And Yakai, just a really seasoned player in excellent form at the moment. I believe currently #1 on the GBL leaderboard, and showing us all the plays and showing us why.
Yeah, definitely a player that's in form at the moment for sure, and definitely a player to be watching for at the World Championships. Now, because this is sort of the end of the first round, we actually do have a quick little score update that we can bring up as well, and we can sort of see the results of the Swiss results here. So you have the match wins on the left-hand side and the game wins on the right-hand side, with Yakai taking that sort of early lead with the 3-0 result against BJ. Now, this is going to be, if we didn't explain it at the start of the tournament, if someone goes 3-0, of course, they're going to win the entire thing. But if we do see a tie at the top of this leaderboard, then we are going to go to a tiebreaker, which is the battle wins, which is why every single battle in this series is important. And this battle win from Yakai, this 3-0 victory over BJ, could be incredibly important going through the rest of the tournament. Now, Claire and I are going to be going through the next round as well, and jumping into round number 2, match number 4, where we're going to see Zero, so Panic-A-Lot, taking on Goji. So Goji sort of wants to get back in the game here and get a match win, whereas Panic is looking to sort of push their lead out into the front, which is, to be honest, could go either way based on the way that these players are playing. But, Claire, we have the teams back up. We've seen both of these battlers battle before. Well, we haven't personally, but we do finally get to take a look at the wackiest team of this entire tournament, Claire.
I'm so sad you guys are calling this a wacky team. I'm actually really excited to see this team because you know what you see here. It's quite different to the others. And so, you know, we can say it's wacky, but my goodness, it's so brave to bring something that isn't what everyone else is bringing. It definitely has that inadequates theme to it where you're bringing the Giratina O, but Giratina O can get hard-walled by Lickitung and by normals. So making sure that the rest of your team is built around it to counter the things that Giratina O doesn't want to see. You really want to make your opponent think twice about bringing those Pokemon and have them guessing about whether you're actually bringing the Giratina or not. And we saw Inadequates do that beautifully. And I'm sure Goji is also doing it, like obviously played very, very well in their own country playoffs to get to this point. And yeah, is running that team extremely well. I'm quite interested in the team makeup as well, just looking at things like the Mantine. There is a charger bug on, I think, almost every other team, so it makes Mantine very difficult to bring. However, you know, if you can keep it away from the charger bug or the electric type, we know it's just so tanky and has so much play.
Yeah. And, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I'm excited. I'm getting carried away, but yeah, really excited that we get to cast this battle.
Yeah, for sure. And look, you make a really good point about that Mantine charge bug thing, but something that we actually saw at the Perth Regional Championships was Z-Tarb running that Mantine quite well. And even when there was that threat of the super hard counter into the Mantine, he was able to sort of avoid it and operate it quite well. And I think when you have a team like Goji's, you actually do have quite a few options of maneuverability to try and find your way out of some matchups. Like, for example, I think a well-timed move from a Talonflame can really flip a matchup in many scenarios. Now, I do want to say as well, as much as I use the word wacky to describe this team with so much love, it's a term of endearment as far as I'm concerned, because I think this team is awesome.
It seems like you're known as the champion of people using unique Pokemon. So, yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about necessarily, but I actually want to point out as well that this isn't just a team that they've brought into this tournament. This is the team that they won the South Korea playoffs with. Like, this team has brought them success in this meta. And I want to say that they were the only second person to get a tournament win with Giratina and potentially Wigglytuff as well in this season. So, like, they're very much taking that Inadequates flag and flying it high. And as I sort of, hinted at before, Inadequates was able to get his win in a very sort of niche meta in this sort of zone where some of the move stats had updated, but new moves given to Pokemon weren't allowed. And so it was this really weird, tumultuous time where Inadequate sort of he made a meta read and it worked incredibly well. Goji is coming into this meta with sort of full knowledge, full stats. This isn't a team that people have really been running very much after Inadequates' win. And Goji sort of coming in here going, I think the tech is good. And I mean, based on the fact that they were able to go through the playoffs with the victory and qualify for Worlds, clearly the tech is good. Now, talking about the teams that are actually in front of us, I do think that the Talonflame from Goji looks quite powerful. As long as you sort of, even if you are up against the Azumarill, you have at least some play. And I think that it's quite a neutral pick against the rest of the entire team, to be honest. And I really feel like, depending on the sway of the matchup, depending if we see any hard counters in the back, the Talonflame could be quite a powerful Pokemon to propel Goji through this match.
Yeah, I mean, potentially. That's not one I particularly looked at myself. I'm looking at Serpenicolot's team and seeing again how much neutral play Vigoroth has. So I'll be very interested to see Serpenicolot, obviously very, very experienced, long-term Show 6 Pick 3 battler that we know is also very, very strong player. He would have analysed this matchup, and I'm sure we'll be able to see the workarounds for this unusual opposing team that he has. And I think we'll see a bit of Vigoroth. I am also super interested in Goji's. There are quite a few potentially polarizing matchups, not just the ones we've mentioned. So Registeel is really interesting to me as well, as a Pokemon that I've used quite a bit in these sort of battles. I think Registeel can be really hard to use, can be very dominant depending on the matchup, but also, it's not a mon that you can easily farm with. It's not a mon, you need to, in modern play, you need to be able to undercharge perfectly to get the best benefit of being able to lock on something down. I'll be interested to see if Goji brings that. I'm not sure that he will, although it's a great counter for the Lickitung and the Azumarill and the Mandibuzz. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting. There's some really close matchups.
Oh, for sure. And when it's the only Pokemon on your team that has fighting type coverage against a team with two normal types, it could definitely be a bit of a swing out depending on how things go. But let's jump into game number 1 of this 4th match in the tournament. Again, there was a problem with Goji's footage, so we will only have one perspective, but we'll try and figure out where the match is headed regardless, with a Lickitung versus Whiscash in the lead, Gligar and Vigoroth hanging out in the back.
Okay, Lickitung generally has the upper hand in this matchup. Goji choosing to send the move first, so using a Scald. Not as likely. Okay, so got the attack drop. That's a lucky one. That's not as likely these days. Straight switching to the Registeel and the Vigoroth. So this is a really interesting matchup where if Registeel just throws straight Focus Blast, I think it can get the upper hand. But with the shields at hand, Serpenicolot will obviously choose to try and stay in this matchup.
Yeah, gets the debuff from the Zap Cannon as well. Vigoroth is in this really strange position where you are doing super effective damage with counter. It feels like you're a fighter against a steel type, but you don't actually have any super effective moves. And we see Panic throwing resisted body slams here. And they do have same type attack bonus. They do come incredibly fast. But he is debuffed and they don't actually do that much damage. It's really all on those counters. Another Zap Cannon comes through, but no debuff this time. And Panic really just has to, I think he's going to look to unleash some of this energy, try and take this Registeel down before it can get to a third charge move. Looks like we're actually going for a bit of a high-tech undercharge here to get one extra counter. Really nicely played from Panic. But now some mad swaps, instant swaps, and we ended up with a Lickitung throwing a Power Whip into a Talonflame. Really nice catch from Goji on this one.
Oh my goodness, that's not what you want to see at all. Lickitung can usually get the better of this matchup if they're just throwing body slams, and that is an unfortunate waste of energy there for Serpenicolot. Goji playing extremely well there. Getting another body slam off now. That will chip away at the Talonflame. Talonflame not the most bulky Pokemon, and shielding up so that Goji's really trying to keep Talonflame in this match, and it looks like he's seeing the potential of Talonflame, as you mentioned in the pre-game analysis, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, when you've got 2 shields up on Talonflame, it becomes even more scary. And a 2-0 shield, no doubt. And as we saw earlier, it is Flame Charge Fly, I believe, on this Talonflame. And so there's no Brave Bird shenanigans, but after a few boosts, Fly may as well be a Brave Bird. And here we see the Fly coming through, so much damage onto that shiny Shadow Gligar. Is going to see an Aerial Ace coming off from this Gligar before going down, but this is almost guaranteed the only charge move we see from this Gligar. Gligar, because after that Protect Shield comes up from Talonflame, we're going to see a swap into the Whiscash. Again, is actually in a spot where we're actually going to throw the Mud Bomb, it looks like, to take out the Gligar, and then we're going to be back into this Whiscash versus Vigoroth, where Vigoroth has a lot of work to do, but a lot of energy on Panic's side, so maybe he can pull it off.
Yes, much energy there. I think Vigoroth is really, again, being showcased. I did think that the Vigoroth did have a lot of play against this team. Going to get another body slam away here. Not quite in time before Goji gets off his move, but should survive this and have plenty of energy for... Okay, so going to get rid of the Whiscash and see what comes in.
Yeah, it looks like the game plan is throw the Body Slam, take out the Whiscash, and hope that you can get this Rock Slide you have enough energy for against the Talonflame, and is able to get the Rock Slide through. And with no Protect Shields left, I believe, it means that Panic is actually going to take out this game number 1 that, to be honest, Claire, I was thinking was looking very grim for Panic.
Yeah, he just really showed that he could build up as much energy as he needed on the Vigoroth, stayed in, could wear that move from the Whiscash, and was able to build up to the 2 moves that he needed to eliminate the last 2 Pokemon. So very well played by Panic.
Yeah, and as you sort of said, it really speaks to the strength of Vigoroth, that it's really able to push through these matchups. I mean, it was sort of looking bad when it was in that Registeel matchup, because you did have, again, you were in this sort of fighter versus steel matchup. You had all of this counter damage going through, shielding up these big moves. The Registeel was going for Zap Cannons as opposed to going for the slightly cheaper Focus Blasts, which then extends how long it takes to get to its 3rd charge attack after burning both shields. Like, it really was sort of putting their pressure on, but Vigoroth stood strong, kept enough health so that later on in the match, when we saw that Vigoroth come into the Whiscash, was able to just sort of have enough stock to get enough energy to KO both the Whiscash and the Talonflame back to back. Now, I'll be honest, Claire, I had trouble following what went on in that sort of early middle game where there was just instant swaps all over. The Whiscash came in, batted in the Lickitung to throw the Power Whip. We saw the Talonflame catching the Power Whip. I mean, the speed of thought going on in these battles is, well, there's a reason that these guys are the champions. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely, and I think it was really interesting to see that mid-game play, and anyone who's watching to learn from these master battlers would see how Goji was purposely sending the Zap Cannons. Very fortunate for him that he was getting those debuffs on the Vigoroth, because, yeah, like you say, that was meaning those counters were doing so much less damage. Panic thinking all the time, though, okay, this is what's happening, this is what I need to do, building up all the energy, and, yeah, like you say, Vigoroth was the answer in the end game. So very, very well played.
Yeah, and look, Panic is really looking to take an early match number 2 here, but Goji going to try and push back, try and get their first win on the board, and to be honest, I really think they're just going to have to be putting all of their thought into that Vigoroth and just trying to see what happens. But let's jump into game number 2, see how these players play it out, and that's what Goji wants to see, a Wigglytuff into a Mandibuzz, forcing the swap out into the Vigoroth, and here comes the Talonflame. But as you sort of mentioned a bit earlier, this isn't the greatest spot for the Talonflame, so it's a bit of an interesting swap in where you have to be scared of the Rock Slides. You need to use your Protect Shields wisely here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Panic is going to be shielding up that Vigoroth with so much energy on it and timing those moves perfectly to be able to get off those body slams and really start to pressure the Talonflame on Goji's side.
Yeah. Any one of these charge attacks could be the one-hit KO Rock Slide, and so Goji burns the first Protect Shield on that one, and now Panic has to think, well, I do have a lot of energy on this Vigoroth. I think I kind of want to keep it around before going for another charge attack, and instead of that classic pattern of throw 2 counters, 4 turns, 5th turn, throw the Rock Slide, and this again could be KOing the Talonflame if Goji doesn't shield and lets it go, and which means that this Wigglytuff is going to have to come in, has to eat a Rock Slide, but then we'll be able to KO this Vigoroth quite quickly, and I don't think that Panic is going to be bringing that Mandibuzz back in.
I know, but he's played that masterfully. He's used that Vigoroth to win the switch and the matchup that he needs. Gligar doesn't really love Wigglytuff, especially if there's an Icy Wind on the other side. I can't recall the moveset, but I imagine there is. Really needs to try and pressure this Wigglytuff before it gets to its move, and Mandibuzz is left against the Wigglytuff.
Yeah, but Goji still has that Protect Shield and Panic has none, which means that this Icy Wind is going to come through onto the Shadow Gligar. No shields in play. This is going to do a lot of damage. Down goes the Gligar, and now it is back to the lead with Mandibuzz up against the Wigglytuff, and this Mandibuzz wants to clear out Wigglytuff as soon as possible, but Goji makes the catch into Registeel. It would be harder to find a worse 2 Pokemon for this Mandibuzz to have to face, Claire. Like, that top left from earlier, can we see that again now?
I really feel for Panic in this matchup. I think he's done everything he can to try and get away or get past that terrible lead matchup. He's used the Vigoroth really well, like we said, but in the end, Mandibuzz didn't have much play against this line of 3 from Goji whatsoever, and it was, I guess, a really good read from Goji to bring that line of 3.
Yeah, no, that's right. And I think Panic was probably thinking, what is Goji going to bring to try and deal with my first team, right? That Vigoroth's so powerful, and sort of made the read that Mandibuzz was going to be a Pokemon that was quite good. But unfortunately, Goji bringing out 2 hard counters to that Mandibuzz. I'll be honest, Claire, I don't think that we're going to see a Mandibuzz in game number 3 from Panic. I think it might sort of invoke too much panic, potentially, to sort of have to... Whoops, that's on the... Oh, yeah, no, that's right. To have to see that sort of in play. I mean, you never want to see a Mandibuzz into a Wigglytuff lead, and so I think that Panic has to do a bit of thinking, a bit of a reading, to be honest. What is Goji going to bring in game number 3?
I agree, and I think this is where you get to the point where you're really scratching your head because Goji has so many unique and polarizing choices to be bringing, and he has brought the Registeel twice. So he's obviously feeling it with the Registeel and thinking that is a key Pokemon. And if you look at Panic's team, I guess it is quite weak to Registeel. If you look now, the Vigoroth is the best answer, and Vigoroth is being used beautifully as a safe switch, but it can't do everything. It's done most things, but it just can't do absolutely everything. So definitely a bit of head scratching will be going on going to this last battle.
Yeah, it's another one that could really go in a lot of different ways. So let's just jump in to the decisive game number 3. Goji going for their first match win of the tournament. Panic looking to try and go into an early 2-0 lead. Let's see, and we do see the Gligar into the Talonflame with Azumarill actually coming in the back this time from Panic with Vigoroth as well. Now, Gligar doesn't really have the same tools that Vigoroth does to threaten Talonflame as much. You do still have some damage that you can output with these Aerial Aces, but to be honest, Claire, I'd be a bit more scared to be the Gligar when those charge attacks from the Talonflame can really add up quickly.
That's true. I don't mind being the Gligar in this matchup, though, particularly when you've got shields, because, again, its damage output being a shadow is so high and it can really pressure this Talonflame. And there's so much more flexibility being the shorter turn fast move, just being able to send off those Aerial Aces and then dip out if you really needed to. But very interesting that he's brought the Gligar in the lead, potentially to try and counter that Registeel weakness we were talking about.
Oh, okay. Now, here's an interesting play here. So we see the Vigoroth coming out into the Talonflame to catch the move. The Flame Charge goes through here, which is going to weaken down Vigoroth quite a bit. But because Talonflame's so low, it's actually able to counter all the way down. And now, no matter what Goji brings out, and it's going to be that Wigglytuff, you are going to have some play to do quite a bit of damage to it with Body Slams. They're neutral to Wigglytuff. You have the same type attack bonus. They really add up relatively quickly onto this Wigglytuff. And we know that there's no Mandibuzz on Panic's team, so there's not really too much to stress about, but if you can remove the Charmer from the match as soon as possible, you'll save yourself a lot of health.
Absolutely. I think, once again, Panic's shown us how to get the absolute most out of your Vigoroth. You could do a masterclass in it, or we're watching one. Be interesting to see what I think he'll probably bring Azumarill in, and yes, he is, just to get rid of the rest of that Vigoroth. Okay, so the hard swap into Registeel, and this is a tricky one. It's not so great, especially with that Hydro Pump. Not so great for Azumarill. We're going to be sending off not very effective charge moves against that Registeel. Bubbles add up, but obviously Registeel has Zap Cannon at its disposal, and Panic with only one shield left is going to have to play this very carefully, potentially with a catch.
Yeah, when you're playing in the Go Battle League and you don't know your opponent's moveset, the Registeel is a little bit spooked by this matchup, but when it's open team sheets, you know what's coming, and the Gligar comes in, but there's still a shield up on Goji's side, so you can't necessarily guarantee that this dig is going to land, but Gligar is going to go for it anyway, hoping that Goji thinks that it's a shield bait, and it does not land. That's a lot of energy to go straight into Protect Shield, and so Panic is looking here, and to be honest, Claire, I don't see any other path. You need to burn the shield here, and you need to get another dig onto the Registeel, but there is that potential catch, and it goes through. We see the catch, and Wigglytuff is going to eat this dig, and that Registeel is going to have free reign in the back. Brilliant play from Goji to just absolutely throw away so much energy from Panic. That's unfortunate.
Goji played that absolutely beautifully. Panic did pause as well before throwing that move, and Goji anticipated it and swapped it just the right time. There's not really much that you can do about that. That was absolutely expert play.
Yeah, like, you know, obviously hindsight is always 20/20 when you're in these scenarios, but the skill level of Pokemon Go PvP is just rising and rising and rising, and you have to be ready for these guys to all be in this scenario. They're all thinking about waiting turns. They're all thinking about when the catches need to be made, and you know, maybe if they were successful at their shield bait, you would at least have a little bit more room. Like maybe if you went for the aerial ace and you did get the shield out of the Registeel, then maybe you have a bit more health. There's a bit more room to throw. Because as like where we sort of saw, the Gligar got so low from those lock-ons that if you didn't throw at that exact moment, you couldn't really wait any longer. Like if you threw another wing attack, you might actually get KO'd. And so you would just have a little bit more, a bit more in the tank to potentially, you know, a few different turns you could be throwing the move. All of that said, you still had that Wigglytuff that was going to get at least a charm through. So you'd have to time things pretty well if you were Sir Panic going into that battle. So Goji did just play it really, really well and puts their name back on the board with a match win.
Yeah, I really enjoyed those battles. It was great to see some of those different Pokemon played to their most effective utilization. And, you know, we mentioned a few things that you'd need to keep in mind running a team like that. And Goji has shown us why he was so dominant in like his local competition, and then obviously doing extremely well now.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And, you know, it does mean that I think this tournament is going to get a lot more interesting as we head towards the end with some very close scores going on. But look, let's throw it back to our co-casters, DrTrotter and Not Rob, who are going to be taking us through the next battle of round 2 in this Swiss tournament in the APAC region. We'll be back soon.
Thanks, Steve. I am
right.
not a DrTrotter, and this is not Rob May.
All right. Well, we got our next match coming in. We are also, just as an added reminder, we are in round number 2 of the Swiss. We're moving forward with Yekai and Gamebird. As a reminder that Yekai's team has standard movesets with Grass Knot and Moonblast, and Volt Switch Discharge and X Scissor, as well as Aqua Tail and Stone Edge on the Shadow Quag. Gamebird, however, has again the same standard moveset, and the for Alligator has Hydro Cannon, Ice Beam, and the Annihilate has Night Slash and Shadow Ball, as well as no surprises with the Charge Bug yet again. So when we move into this next match, these two, this is the first match that I've casted with Trotter where the Annihilate is on the other side of a Vigoroth team. So this will be quite interesting. The Vigoroth and Annihilate has been a matchup that's been pretty difficult in the past, as well as DrTrotter versus his 2 kids being the number 2 most difficult match on the record here. Very interesting stuff.
I think I'd rather have my Vigoroth into an ape than be fighting these two, but here we are. And look, again, I think that for Alligator is just got some really nice matchups here against Yekai. Yeah. However, the Vigoroth and the Charger Bug for Yekai do fight back there nicely. We haven't seen Skarmory be used in any of the matchups yet, and there's 2 here. So hopefully we can see some sort of Skarmory content, maybe a bit of Annihilate would be cool to see. But Annihilate, like, if it's got energy, it can do well against the Cresselia, but it's just going to struggle. There's like 3 flyers and a charge bug there. There's a lot of neutrality. Counters are just going to be resisted everywhere. It does make things a little bit tricky to bring that 8.
I think that Gamebird's side of things does seem to be a bit stronger for them to use the Skarmory against Yekai's team rather than Yekai using it into Gamebird's team. I think that it's definitely an inclusion against the Cresselia is just absolute walls it. Has pretty neutral matchups against itself. You know what I mean? Like that's just the mirror match. And then it's got a decent threat against the Shadow Quag just because the fast moves add up. I don't think it's necessarily that favorable either way. It's a bit more neutral, but does seem to do much better versus the Gligar. But man, does that really stink to see the Charge Bug or the Vigoroth locked in on it. So it's a little bit interesting. I think, like you said, the Feraligatr is going to be a very interesting decision here to be made. And then where to put the Feraligatr, I think, is really the big question for Gamebird here. Where to put it slot wise in the front and the back and the safe position. And then I think that the Charge Bug is also relatively safe for both groups. So we might be seeing that as well. And then probably a neutral Lickitung. But let's just stop the yapping and get into this first match. Let's see what we got going for Yekai and the Gamebird. We have a Charge Bug into an Annihilate opening. Both trainers staying.
Yeah, and both trainers having the Skarmory in the back there. When an instant catch onto the Licky. So is definitely preserving that 8. Feels like it's got play in the back and it has the energy. So discharge from Licky tickles a little bit. And so far, Yekai looking at staying in, potentially looking to get another charge move off. Oh, and no, just builds up the energy and dips to the Skarmory. Now, this is a strong matchup. These charge moves, all that energy doesn't go anywhere now.
This is an interesting decision point for Gameboard. I think that Gamebird having to basically decide whether they're going to commit shields here, keep that switch clock moving, and like preserve this Lickitung, or if they just would rather get as much damage and continually setting up their Annihilate or their backline with their own Skarmory at the end of this matchup is very interesting. I don't think you're too upset to see this. You know, you do give the Charge Bug a little bit of extra energy, getting it back to where it once was before the catch. But this Skarmory is very low, and you just kind of give that energy right back. And in this case, gets the catch onto the Annihilate into a shield.
It's gonna have to double shield because they're throwing the Night Slash.
Throws the Night. This is a very interesting play, and I don't understand what the logic is here, but does end up committing the shield because they have the other attack. So we're going to go into a down 2 shields to 1 against Yekai to get the farm down pressure. However, the farm down is not going to come into play due to the switch clocks being up.
Yeah, the switch clocks. So that Skarmory is there effectively as an extra shield. Should be able to get to it later. And now it's a race to the Shadow Ball, which the ape does get to the move first, but there is a shield there. Will they choose the Shikai use to shield this Shadow Ball? We're going to let it go, and going to be looking for a little bit of farm here on that Quag side now, and hoping that they can sweep with Quag in the back. And look, we can see Gamebird's
tapping.
Get into that Skarmory ASAP, please.
Trying to smash to get that switch clock out and starting the reset right away against this down a shield matchup against the Quagsire. Yekai looking in a very dominant position. Also of note, for a second there, I don't know why, it must have been a little bit of the the lag. For some reason, I thought this was an air slash because the frame rate is dropping for us. But no, that is indeed a stealing. Skarmory looking really, really dominant Yekai position wise here to finish up this match. Has that shield.
Looks like Yekai is going to just let the shield this up and try and get as much energy before the next charge move from Gamebird, because there are still 2 other Pokemon to deal with in the back here, and everything has a little bit of energy. Oh, and does get the CMP tie. Quag beating the Skarmory here.
Very nice.
So very nice from Yekai. And I guess we're going to see, does Licky survive a move and how much energy does it have?
Yeah, the other thing of note here is waiting the switch clock out to hopefully get the, maybe even just rip a body slam if they can get there. Oh, goes for the catch and manages it?
Insane.
This is huge. We may see the body slam, but it's just not going to be enough. And so while this is a spectacular catch, you're just going to get outpaced and KO'd beforehand. You also lose the charge attack priority if Yekai's counting licks at this late stage in the game. But very, very masterful play. Gamebird showcasing, I can still make these catches in your life very difficult despite losing this match.
Yeah, very, very close there. Did need the power whip, so the body slam wasn't even going to carry the Shadow Quag from there. And Shadow Quag, once again from Yakai, coming in so clutch, like really stamping its authority in that last match and earlier. And there's no real need to change it up. Like, yes, there's a for Alligator, and yes, there's a Licky, but everything else it can kind of do its thing.
Yeah, I agree. I also really liked seeing the Lickitung being played in such a way that basically Yekai was basically able to keep that composure against the Lickitung, and Gamebird kept another cool head when they saw the Skarmory come in on that late switch, knowing that they need to build up the energy, knowing that they wanted to get some more damage into the Charjabug, but ironically enough, shielding on the Lickitung and not pivoting into that Annihilate early to kind of get some more damage off on that specific matchup versus the Skarmory may have changed a little bit of the texture of that match there for us.
I mean, that was some crazy mid game. The swap to catch the flying move on your Annihilate, like what was that? This is crazy.
Yeah,
so
swap in to catch a shield. It's very interesting pivot.
There we go. And ultimately actually it didn't pay off because Yakai was able to win that Quagsire. So let's see if these opponents can make any change ups. Can Gamebird flip it around? And there we go. Ooh, this is a bit of a close one here.
Yeah, Gligar Shadow versus the opening matchup of the Vigoroth. We also can see the back lines of both trainers having a water type. Their only water types in the back is going to be another interesting closing potential. It does look like Gamebird has brought Lickitung instead of the Skarmory this time. And also the Dig coming out real early. Not messing around with the damage windows here. And then we have a Charjabug for Yekai's third.
Yep. Now
will he shield?
This is a critical point and does use the shield. Does not want to look at farming down with the ghost type moves that are in the back. Oh, and a swap into Quag here.
Yeah, this is very interesting. Gonna still soak the Dig, which is a sizable amount of damage, Shadow versus Shadow. It hits well into the yellow. Again, then goes for the Lickitung. This will put it in Lickitung's body slam range. So this is quite a great swap here, especially knowing that the lead is what it is. But what Gamebird doesn't know is that there is a Feraligatr waiting in the back where the Lickitung would be very happy to take that matchup.
Yeah, it is unfortunate that Feraligatr for Gamebird is going to probably end up against that Charjabug in the back.
Yeah.
And these are going to be some useful counters, even though it's low. Look at these counters add up. Who gets to the move first? Is it body? Oh, Vigoroth gets it done here and lets it go the body slam. Not going to take it out, but precarious position now.
Yeah, and does seem to be building up to the power whip. And gets the lick down. That is monumental gameplay here. Does go for the body slam instead of banking the power whip because the switch clocks are not up. Yekai recognizing that goes into the Charjabug right away in order to deny that flexibility. Very, very big play for the kind of overall chess of the match, if you will. Then we see the Feraligatr coming into an unfavored matchup, which will likely seal the deal. Even though you're up shields, we'll see how this plays out.
Now there
guy's up energy.
The guy's up energy, but there is still a fair bit of HP on that Gligar. Not going to be able to just volt switch it down. This may end up being a little bit closer than we first thought.
Yeah, the switch timer is now up. It does not opt for the catch, does just tank it, and is going to go for maybe a back-to-back race to get to the next discharge versus being able to throw on charge attack priority and win charge attack priority with an aerial ace. But Yekai is not going to let it happen today. Goes for the more neutral X scissor here. And because both are resisted.
That overfarm from Yakai with that charger bug into the Feraligatr proved to be what was able to have enough energy to outpace the Gligar to 2 moves. They're both 1 shield, so they both had to land a move and were hunting for it. So Yakai able to take out that matchup 2-0. Again, just having that little bit more energy in their back, that little bit faster energy generation, really paved the way for both of those wins.
Yeah, I really liked seeing the gameplay here from both trainers in that matchup. I did misspeak a little bit there, thinking that the Lickitung was going to be able to match up against the Feraligatr, when in reality, Gamebird is the one packing the Feraligatr. But yeah, very, very good stuff here from the both trainers. Will we see Annihilate in Game 3? I don't actually. Do we have Game 3 that we're going to be played for these matches, Trotter? Or are we just gonna?
Yeah, no, I think all three get played. Because of the Swiss nature of, if it is a 2-1, 2-1, whoever's got the most game wins will be deemed the winner and showered with glory, while the losers will receive the retribution that they get for not being able to compete at that standard.
All right, so Gamebird hopefully gonna twist around Game 3 for yet a tiebreaker chance at another point, as well as Yekai trying to extend their lead into the next round. Let's get into Game 3. No more frills. Let's see what we got. We have a mirror match with one side on both Gligar coming in.
Well, this is a little bit lackluster, really. I mean, the Gligar's got so much potential in the back. I guess the advantage for both players is that there's likely to be a Watermon in the back, so the Feraligatr and the Quagsire, and now they've actually avoided that matchup for themselves. So even though the Gligar's neutral, it's not in a negative match. So we're probably going to see a very close matchup in the end, which could be crucial here. We don't know if the Quag's there, but here we go. It does look like Yakai is going to be able to get this move off. Well, no shield coming from Gamebird, so switch is in favor of Yakai here in the zeros, and out comes that Gator.
And Gamebird taking that information that they do lose the coin flip, potentially writing this down and remembering this for later if Yekai and Gamebird see each other again in the future, even past this tournament. That's something that they're probably going to be taking with them. Gets the entire farm down to see what's coming next, and it is a Vigoroth going to throw the single Shadow Claw and rip this Hydro Cannon right out of the gate.
Yeah, and this is exactly where Gamebird wanted to see this Vigoroth. Does not want it with the Lickitung. Energy on this Feraligatr, even though it's down a shield, this is going to be very, very helpful for Gamebird's end play. Hopefully able to get that Lickitung into something better to keep this tournament alive. Here comes the Body Slam. Oh, this could be close. Oh, and choosing the shield. I'm not even sure if that would have KO'd.
I think that this doesn't really matter if it KOs, just playing for that extra little bit of safety, getting all the pressure in. You've seen the Charger Bug back-to-back matches. You know it's likely in the back. Just gonna commit to getting the last shield or the farm down before swapping into your safety, which is this Lickitung. Now shields are gone. Let's see what Yekai's packing in the back here. Does that gameplay trust that the or does Gamebird know something we don't know, or does Yekai actually do have that charge bug that they're playing into?
Well, it could be that Quagsire in the back, so wants to stay here, does not want to have a power whip land onto that Quag. Oh, and his body, and it is the Quagsire, but they've switched,
farming up, get into this swap, hopefully trying to catch that body slam. Does not successfully get that. Indeed does give the energy and the whip back to the opponent, but can you get there? Does get to the body slam. This is incredible. What a Game 3 from Gamebird, showing that they can beat the Yekai at this game.
And it does KO. Oh my gosh.
The Lickitung gameplay into the patient waiting of Gamebird into Game 3, keeping their composure despite losing the better part of the match to pick up one win, keeps this match exciting. Very, very well played by both trainers here, with Yekai having that slight edge. this has been quite the match, DrTrotter. My goodness.
Yeah, very enjoyable and keeping the dream alive, right? Every win can
Mhm.
matter in these sorts of tournaments. So, really, really well done there. Sometimes it can be disheartening losing your first two matches, but when you know these third ones count, look, Gamebird ready to pull out all the stops, and yeah, fantastic composure there on that liquor tongue. Sometimes you get edgy and you need to throw it. And what we've seen so far from all of these competitors is they are cool under fire. They do not just throw as soon as they get the energy. They are always maximizing. They're always keeping things under control. So can't wait for the next battle. And why don't we throw it back to Claire and Steve as they're going to take over. Can't wait.
Take us into round 3 of set 2.
All right, we're back, Claire, and we're back for a good one because it's going to be Beelzeboy versus Bjpawat, India versus Thailand, and we're back to some, pretty similar teams. We have a core 4 that seems quite prevalent, Claire.
Yeah, we are seeing the same core 4 pop up quite a bit, Steve. Particularly interesting. So we've got Cresselia, Quagsire, Chargebug, and Vigoroth the same on both teams. So let's check out the four unique Pokemon, the two on each side. We've got a Mandibuzz, as we've already seen, and a Dugong on Bjpawat's side. And then earlier, we saw Beelzeboy bring the Azumarill and the Skeledirge. So what do you think is looking hot for this matchup, Steve?
To be honest, I'm really liking the look of Beelzeboy's Chargebug. It looks incredibly strong into the Dugong, into the Mandibuzz. It's got that really good, super effective damage into the Cresselia. As much as it's not a good matchup, as we've seen in the past, earlier on in this tournament, it's not a great matchup into Vigoroth, but it's not too bad. And you also, obviously, you have a bit of play into the neutral matchup as well, depending on where your charge attack priority is. Quagsire isn't a good matchup. I don't think anyone would say it's good, but it's not the worst in that the really spammy Aqua Tail that comes out of Quagsire isn't really the move that you're scared of. So I really feel like Chargebug is going to be quite strong from Beelzeboy. Potentially not as strong for BJ. You do have the Azumarill that you are able to hit quite well as well, but the Skeledirge becomes incredibly scary. And I think that Skeledirge is going to, to be honest, it's got a lot of counters, so it may or may not come out from Beelzeboy. What do you think, Claire?
Yeah, I think building from that, if you are Bjpawat and you're looking and thinking, okay, I think I'm a little bit weak to the Chargebug, you're going to try and bring your own Chargebug potentially just for that reason. It is a bit of a game of strategy around avoiding that Skeledirge for sure, but it definitely has good play into the Cresselia, into the Azumarill. But not so much into the rest of the team. So very, very tricky one. I think his other options obviously are the Vigoroth, which we've been seeing showcase so well today, and the Shadow Quagsire on his side. To potentially be scaring off some of the strong options that Beelzeboy has, and to potentially counter the Chargebug if Beelzeboy does end up relying on that. And then, of course, Beelzeboy is going to anticipate that that BJ has to bring those Pokemon. So, he's also going to try and counter those potentially with his Cresselia. Mm-hmm. So we've seen a lot of great Cresselia play today. I think we'll be seeing that coming again.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head, and we are really going to see some more Cresselia Vigoroth gameplay going into this sort of match number 6. So let's jump into game number 1 here, closing out round number 2 of the Swiss tournament. Again, I think we only have one perspective here, and it is going to be Bjpawat. Not in a good lead scenario, though. This Cresselia doesn't like to see the Chargebug. Those X's really do add up. And Claire, he's running ABA weak to Chargebug. He has a Mandibuzz in the back that doesn't want to see this Chargebug either, which leaves BJ in a really awkward position where you don't really want to switch, but you don't really want to stay in.
Yeah, that's really interesting. He's run the gauntlet there and decided just to chance it, and has to stay in, I guess, and throw these Moonblasts, which Chargebug, let's face it, as great as it is, it's not the tankiest of Pokemon. So the Moonblast is a great answer to it. It's just Beelzeboy is able to build up so much energy here and be in a really great situation. BJ choosing not to shield that excesses, so he's just going to let that go. He doesn't have much choice, really. So bringing in the Quagsire, though, now to really tank some of these moves. Shadow Quagsire, the X-Scissor does do probably more damage than you would like, but he can really farm up on that Charger Bug now. Oh, okay, and Beelzeboy deciding to switch into a Vigoroth and catch that Aqua Tail.
Yeah, now if you're BJ, and we're in the similar position here where we don't necessarily know Beelzeboy's back line, we swap into the Mandibuzz and we're kind of going, okay, what is in the back? How scared do I need to be? Because that Charger Bug is obviously really scary into this Mandibuzz, but looking at this Vigoroth, we're kind of like, well, I really don't want to get hit by a Rock Slide, so we burn the Protect Shield here, and we're just trying to get rid of this Vigoroth as soon as possible and hope, just hope, that you don't have a bad matchup in the back. Like a Cresselia in the back could be quite spooky, getting those super effective Moonblasts into Mandibuzz and super effective Grass Knots into the Quagsire. So we just have to see what happens where this Vigoroth is going to throw a Rock Slide, landing it into the Mandibuzz. We're getting quite low here, but the potential for a Snarl Down, and we do get the Snarl Down, which is huge.
That's amazing that he was able to Snarl Down. I feel like BJ's on the back foot and he's just going to use this Mandibuzz as much as he can. It really did tank that Rock Slide quite well. Such a tanky Pokemon, so fortunate in that sense. And again, getting that Aerial Ace off, the Charger Bug was low. Now going, obviously, to get a move off here as well. So Mandibuzz really working really hard for BJ, and he utilised it as best he possibly could in that perhaps unfortunate setup.
Yeah, and when you're staring down the barrel of a shield advantage, it's a really tough spot to be in with such little HP. BJ actually going to let the Aqua Tail come through on the Mandibuzz, putting all of the chips. Okay, it looks like he might have stopped tapping there, but when you're a Quagsire with no energy up against a Quagsire with, well, not zero energy, not a lot of energy, but with 2 Protect Shields, it's a pretty tough spot for Bjpawat. So you see him just letting that Aqua Tail come through there, not even burning the Protect Shield, knowing the game was lost, saving us all some time, and letting Beelzeboy take that very first battle, which definitely a tough one from the very lead. And to be honest, a little bit of a risky strategy from BJ, running that ABA 2 Pokemon weak to that Charge Bug when Charge Bug looks like such a strong Pokemon into BJ's team. Like high risk, high reward, but it does mean that you can really get caught out, and I think that's really just what happened to BJ here.
Yeah, I think that's really key in Show 6 Pick 3, and something probably for people watching who are still learning about Show 6 Pick 3, and maybe you're familiar with GBL, but not so much with the strategies around this sort of format. That is so critical when you are locking in your line of 3 to just have one more look at every Pokemon on your opponent's team. Is there something that they're leading that could potentially, counter me both in front and back, and so I don't have any options? What options do I have? Just be really thinking about every single potential lead scenario that you're going into and what you might do. So just really hard to fight back from there. Did the best he could with that amazing Mandibuzz, but just wasn't quite enough.
Yeah. At the same time, like as much as sort of you can take the risk sometimes, and it's something that we've seen from one of the North American battlers, Arrow, quite a bit, so much that I saw on the Speediest Chief in Z's Wireless's podcast, the Show 6 podcast, they called it the Arrow battle arrangement, where he loves taking these risky ABA lines where you can just, if there's a lead, you basically insta lose. Like if that Charge Bug shows up in the lead, there's not much you can do to try and win that matchup. But if you make the right call, then you could be in quite a strong position. But it does mean that you get called out sometimes. And so I think a lot of people prefer to have matchups that they can use skill to try and wiggle out of. So I don't expect that BJ is going to go for an APA line into this battle necessarily. But,
I've really heard about Arrow's strategy, and I've definitely heard a lot of negative feedback about it. So I'm not really sure it's going to work for everybody. Jury's out on that one. Everyone's got their different approaches.
Well, look, when you're on the main stage and you're running this ABA team that is just entirely falls apart to your opponent's lead, it really does call you out a little bit. So, look, we'll see if BJ, and maybe Beelzeboy sits there and goes, he's not going to do that again. I'll move my Charger Bug out of the lead, and all of a sudden the strategy actually works really well. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, you make a really good point. I think if you're going to run ABA, you need to do it with a little bit of analysis around the team and seeing how strong Charger Bug was. That was a likely lead from Beelzeboy, so it's probably if you're gonna take that ABA risk, it's probably not the right Pokemon to take.
Definitely tough. But hey, we'll jump into battle number 2 and see if BJ can turn all around. This time, we're going to see a Quagsire, a much better lead into that Charge Bug, and also has a pretty decent matchup with Vigoroth in the back. We see the Vigoroth come in, and this is something that we actually saw earlier in the tournament. This Cresselia swap into the Vigoroth, which is definitely a pretty decent spot for Bjpawat to be in, especially, Claire, when we know that Charge Bug is in the back for Beelzeboy, and BJ's Vigoroth is really going to enjoy seeing that later in the match. And Quagsire, not too bad into it either. So from a purely team composition advantage, not knowing Beelzeboy's third Pokemon, it looks quite strong for BJ here.
Yeah, BJ must be breathing a bit more of a sigh of relief in this matchup after the last one. He can afford to just see how this runs. The Vigoroth body slams won't really be doing too much to the tanky Cresselia. He can hold on to switch here, I would say, and has definite advantage knowing that he has a Quagsire against the Charge Bug. So much better position than the last matchup for sure.
With that said, though, if Beelzeboy has a Cresselia as his third Pokemon, that's going to be quite strong into the Quagsire Vigoroth combo, and also has a potential to be really strong in being able to take out Vigoroth and only needs a single Grass Knot to take out the Vigoroth. BJ, oh no, a charge attack priority from the Vigoroth, gets a charge attack here, forcing BJ to burn a shield before he can get the charge attack off. This is not how BJ wanted this matchup to go, and I'm not sure if I saw a swap there or if potentially we did just see this Grass Knot going straight into the Vigoroth. No swap. Grass Knot goes through, carries the Vigoroth. So has one switch advantage here, and it is the Cresselia. Claire, I don't know what you do here. I mean, I don't think you bring in the Quagsire, that's for sure, but it's a really tough spot where you're now just, the script is flipped, apologies, where now Beelzeboy is really in the strong position here with a strong Cresselia into your Vigoroth, and you're kind of just going, well, maybe it plays out similar. I mean, Cresselia didn't escape with that much HP from that matchup. Maybe it goes the same way, and maybe your Quagsire can still do quite well against the Charge Bug, but you need to get through this Cresselia before it has a chance of getting a Grass Knot onto your Quagsire.
Yeah, BJ really has to play this out as best he can and keep the Vigoroth as healthy as possible. You really want to be getting rid of that Cresselia. Doesn't take it long to get to a Grass Knot, and that is going to be a complete one-shot KO for the opposing Quagsire. So, yeah, definitely a big situation. And yes, tried to pick the bait there, I think, but just making it to the body slam. Wow, that's amazing. At least he gets that off. And I guess saving a shield because he knows he needs it.
Yeah, now this has actually opened a bit of an opportunity for Bjpawat. By swapping the Charge Bug in, there is potential that BJ can get out of this matchup with a charge attack to throw into the Cresselia. So really needs to try and take this Charge Bug out. Oh no, he's gone straight for it. And so now it's just going to be a race. Can Quagsire get to 2 Aqua Tails before Cresselia can get to 2 Grass Knots? I don't know if that Cresselia has a little bit of energy in the tank. From 0, Quagsire can do it. But can Cresselia get to a second Grass Knot?
Yeah, it's really hard to say without being able to see both screens. It's looking promising at this point, though. That Quagsire just charges up so fast. Aqua Tails just come through so spammy, and it's pretty exciting. We'll see if he gets... Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Super unlucky there.
That's so unfortunate. It looked like it was charge attack priority from that last attack. Barely just losing out there. And, you know, Claire... As much as I was sort of like, I'm not sure if that's the right strategy with that swap out into Charge Bug, sort of opening the door for BJ to potentially get a win. That slight energy advantage, that slight lead in having that little bit of turn ahead, actually may have been key in BJ just barely not having enough energy to throw the back-to-back Aqua Tail at the end there without the charge attack priority sort of interrupting it. It's like, I don't know if that was necessary. I don't think it was necessarily Beelzeboy's plan, like down to the turn, because there was a lot of matchup and a lot of baits between then and the end of the game. But look, really tight for BJ, and like he sort of saw where the win con was, but unfortunately just wasn't able to execute it in the end.
Yeah, incredibly close. And I think I just wanted to call out too, we spoke about it earlier, Beelzeboy's use of Vigoroth as a safe switch. Vigoroth is just, we're seeing them pop up in these teams. The counter user is generally Vigoroth as opposed to Annihilate, and we can probably see why here. Annihilate is an amazing Pokemon, but just that little bit more squishy. Vigoroth has that tankiness. It can tank a Moonblast. It can send off those body slams, which are neutral in a lot of situations. Its utilization on both sides has been incredible, and in earlier battles that we've seen as well. So very, very interesting to see its prevalence in the meta in this particular tournament for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one, and it's really showing why it is so prevalent quite well. Cresselia too. But look, BJ still has the potential to try and take one last game off of Beelzeboy here. Very last game of round 2. Let's jump into it, and we see a Charge Bug mirror match. Not the first time we've seen it, and chances are with 5 Charge Bugs in the tournament, it may not be the last. But BJ's got 2 pretty decent Charge Bug counters in the back as well. So we've sort of seen again a little bit of a flip from that first game where BJ was quite weak to Charge Bug to a game where not a single Pokemon on this team is going to be weak to this Charge Bug. So there's no bad matchup here.
Yeah, that's definitely what we were anticipating, that he would see that Charger Bug as such a danger to his team that he would need to counter it. Nice catch there with the Vigoroth by BJ. So he's really going in aggressive into this matchup. He's saving his Charger Bug for a potential Cresselia in the back, perhaps anticipating that could be happening again. And we have a Vigoroth mirror match. Always more difficult if you're the Vigoroth that has lower health, because obviously the counters just really add up on both sides here, Steve.
Yeah, for sure. You can see how low Bjpawat's Vigoroth is getting here. Potentially will get to another body slam if he decides to burn a Protect Shield here, but no, actually going to let it go down. And now I actually really like how BJ's playing here, because as we sort of saw in that last game, Cresselia could be quite scary if he just had the Vigoroth Quagsire left. And so by swapping out from the Charger Bug, going into that Vigoroth, he's kept Charge Bug around, which is going to be quite a good counter in Cresselia, where now you have the potential here to Volt Switch all the way down and have a lot of energy to go into the back. And now we see the Quagsire coming in from Beelzeboy, and Quagsire doesn't love these X's. Now that BJ has so much energy on this Charge Bug, this is really going to be adding up, and actually, again, going to keep that Charge Bug in the back just in case. But now it's going to be a Quagsire versus Quagsire, and similarly to the Vigoroth mirror match, we do have a health advantage on BJ's side, so we'll see if that can overcome the energy advantage that Beelzeboy is packing.
Is it just me, Steve? I feel like we've seen so many Quagsire mirror matches, perhaps with a slight shield. One person usually has one more shield than the other, but I feel like we're seeing a lot of these.
Quagsire seems to also be a Pokemon popping up quite a bit as quite good, where 3 months ago you'd see no Quagsires anywhere, but Desynced I think is personally responsible for quite an uptick in Quagsire usage. And now we see the Charge Bug coming back in from Beelzeboy, has to eat this Aqua Tail. I'm going to see the first Protect Shield come up from the Quagsire. This was threatening the Stone Edge on the first one, but now they know that this is just an Aqua Tail if they're counting, and I'm sure they are, which means that Charge Bug actually is going to burn another Protect Shield. I mean, Claire, did we see a catch? What's happening here?
Yeah, oh gosh, that just came through before he got to another Aqua Tail, which would have been dire after using those shields. And Charge Bug from Beelzeboy has withstood, and BJ already has an Xyz stored though, so this will take out the Charge Bug from Beelzeboy. So a bit of a messy one towards the end there.
Yeah, definitely a scrappy fight towards the end, but BJ getting a win at the very end of the round, which does mean we do have a sort of end of round leaderboard update that we can sort of turn to, where transition. We do have Yakai as the only battler that is on 2 match wins with a 4-way tie for second, Claire. We have Panic, Gamebird, Beelzeboy, and Goji all sitting at 1 match win and 3 game wins, with Bjpawat the only one sitting there on 0 and 1, which means, Claire, that going into this round number 3, if Yakai can be defeated, then it could be anyone's game.
Isn't that interesting? I find that it's amazing, but it's also a testament to the strength of all these battlers. I think we are seeing the best of the best around these different countries in APAC, and they're really showcasing it and have put so much into this tournament. They understand this is their opportunity to showcase their skills, and it's fantastic to see.
Yeah, exactly right. But also, I should probably sort of mention what the pairings are going to be going to this last round, because it's not entirely obvious. We are going to see Bjpawat taking on Panic. We're then going to see Gamebird taking on Beelzeboy. And finally, it is going to be up to Goji, who came in with that very different team. It's going to be up to Goji to try and stop Yakai from taking out the 3-0 victory in the end game. But with that said, let's throw it over to Rob and Trotter again as they take us into the 7th match of the tournament, the very last round. Whoops, I almost actually just played the battle we just saw at the same time, but we're going to avoid these sorts of tech issues, I'm sure. But Trotter, Rob, take it away with Bjpawat versus Panic.
Alrighty, guys and gals out there, welcome back. We've got BJ trying to get his last chance, basically, to get back into this tournament to fully finish near the top, not top 2, maybe even pray that Yakai can lose a match somewhere. We'll see, but yeah, we've got Panic showing back up again against BJ, and with a slight advantage on having the only person to be bringing a dugong in this setup is very interesting to me personally. We also have a first time that we're seeing both of these two of the only people bringing Mandibuzz on a kind of potential mirror match that we could be seeing as well. But yeah, very, very interesting team rosters here. Both Vigoroths, both running Charjabug, both running Mandibuzz, and the only variation really in the other 3.
Yeah, I mean, it's still tricky to run that dugong. There's a Charjabug, there's a Vigoroth. I know it just beats Azu, and it can beat Lickitung depending on shield, but it's still not an easy one to run when Vigoroth and Charjabug have been so prevalent so far this tournament. But to the victor go the spoils. So if you can line that up with that Shadow Gligar, it is just so incredible just to farm that down. And then you're debuffing whatever comes else in the back. So it can really set you up. But that seems like a high-risk play. And I mean, maybe Bjpawat throws all caution to the wind and says, I'm just going to do it. You know, I haven't had the greatest first 2 battles so far. Or maybe they're playing conservative. Just use that as bench pressure for the Gligar.
Alternatively, the Vigoroth and the Charjabug for both players seem to be very good inclusions to play against one another. They are very safe. They have a lot of play into a lot of other matchups, with a slight advantage coming to BJ in running them into Panic's team, just because the Charjabug doesn't have quite as much play into BJ's water type as BJ's Charjabug would have into the Azumarill on Panic's team. But that said, the interesting thing here is that we do have a Cresselia on BJ's team that does seem to have a lot of additional play if the Moonblast is landed on the the Mandibuzz situation, or even having it matched up against the Azumarill. Has a lot of favor into this team comp. But the Gligar also is, outside of the Dugong, looking to be pretty safe for Panic. Very interesting picks here.
Yeah, there should be some fun matchups. I feel like we're going to see a fair bit of sort of that neutral Mandibuzz kind of play, especially from Panic's side, because I don't feel like Dugong's going to be that popular of a pick. Doesn't do terribly against Charjabug. Can set Panic up for one of those classic fast move farm downs after a soft loss in the lead. But we saw in another round, we thought, oh, Panic, yeah, we've nailed it. He's going to go to his playstyle. And then he shielded. And then I'm like, well, we don't know what they're actually doing. So we're just trying to keep up. And I think we should keep up with them by watching this battle and see how they go here.
Yeah, we're going to see our game 1 here. The first time we hit into round number 3. We do see the Dugong right away into one of the worst matchups that it can see before pivoting into a Vigoroth. Panic opting to get up energy and throw the X Scissor before leaving. Very, very good stuff coming here from both sides.
And yet we see that switch into the Azumarill to soak up that energy from the Vigoroth, the hat Vigoroth, not just any old Vigoroth. He's got that sideways cap. He's from 90s. He probably like Smash Mouth. But here it comes in, and another body slam ready to go before Azu's even close to a move. But potentially Azumarill can just eat these and even go for a bubble down. I mean, that'd be a little bit extreme, but I mean, the plays on the cards here. Nope, choosing to throw this Ice Beam. Will we see an undercharge or not? It does look very much like a non-undercharge, so it takes out the Vigoroth and yep. Oh, Dugong. Changing it up here. Dugong comes
Interesting.
out, and I mean, this is looking really nice for Sir Panic-a-Lot, seeming to have a pretty good answer in the back here. Out comes, yep, that is a play rough. Play rough going to do some nice chip damage here to the Dugong. Dugong going to need to farm up some extra. Oh no, it was a CMP event. Out comes the drill run. This really is favoring Panic-a-Lot.
Yeah, Panic making some very interesting kind of thought processes here, I would believe. While you see the Dugong coming into your Azumarill, you know the matchup very, very well. Probably just wants to get the first play rough before a debuff potentially comes in or before you take more damage from the drill run. Doesn't want to give up this advantage that you have, but ends up bringing in the Charge Bug for the quick mirror match coming in here. And both trainers with 2 shields, with Panic actually being down hit points in this matchup, could potentially set up for his second shield to be given to the Vigoroth and finish up this matchup in a farm down. Going to be throwing X scissors back and forth here in this very exciting mirror match of 2 little bugs just throwing electricity at each other like a bunch of outlets fighting it out in a power plant. We'll see how this pans out.
I mean, this Vigoroth in the back, if it can get that shield, well, it's already got one shield. If it can get another one, or get the Charger Bug out of the way, it's going to be really nice. That Dugong has a move, but there's so much health left available to the Vigoroth. It's looking very strong here for Sir Panic-a-Lot. Here comes in. Is he farming up extra? Going for CMP, I believe, on his X Scissor, and will they get the last shield?
It does just look like he only did a single volt switch before throwing there to avoid specifically the charged attack priority. Gonna let it come down. Likely gonna bring in the Vigoroth here and look for that swap or the charged attack to come in before making a decision to shield.
Yeah, it's very safe to shield. They are still going to need 2 moves from both mons from here. Oh, and there is an Icy Wind. I believe they are 1 short from the second Icy Wind, so potentially still able to counter down here. Yes, there goes the counter down, and has the Rock Slide loaded. Out it comes. Going to finish off Bjpawat. Sir Panic-a-Lot doing fantastically here to take out match number 1.
Now, interesting, just to put this on BJ's side of things for that last match, BJ did have the move loaded, but did time the swap not only to get the Charge Bug on energy to be able to throw an attack next or finish up the Volt Switch, but also waited until Panic had the Body Slam at least loaded and or the Rock Slide to potentially sacrifice that energy that he had gained in order to get the catch on the Dugong. Managed to both miss getting a catch because the counters was just continuing to fly, and then through the Icy Wind for the debuff just as an added measure of security. Didn't end up working out because Panic had the energy for the Rock Slide, even with debuff was enough to KO. Very well played by Panic in that first game, but BJ trying to give himself a little bit of a chance there and that last attempt for a catch. We're gonna basically need to do something very quickly here. The FPS or the frames are dropping quite a bit for all of us, not just you guys in the viewership for Twitch. So Steve said that after this battle, we're gonna restart the stream for about 10 seconds. We're just gonna do a quick reboot, and then we'll get you guys into game number 2.
So it looked like the stream was really good for the viewers, but yeah, just so you guys know, we were watching about 2 to 3 FPS while attempting to cast that one. So hopefully we resolved that issue and it should be running nice and smooth now. Thank you, Steve, for keeping us.
Yeah, Steve also doing his best to at least give us a PowerPoint slideshow so we can commentate. So it was helpful to get those frames back. But we're going to get into our match 2 coming up soon. But we're going to check into these matchups just real quick because we saw the Vigoroth and the Charjabug in Panic just do some heavy lifting there in that last match. And we did see BJ relying on the Dugong, which we didn't think was going to come right out of the gates. Was a very risky inclusion. Likely was not anticipating a Charjabug in the lead, and that's exactly what he saw. So we might see an adjustment here. Panic also not correctly identifying that if the Charjabug was in the lead, has a lot of positive matchups and a lot of neutral matchups. Very safe for Panic to be running that in the front. And just on the off chance that you catch the Cresselia, the Dugong, or the Mandibuzz in that position, feels really, really nice.
Does feel nice. 3 strong targets, couple of neutral targets, up a shield especially. So I wouldn't be surprised if Sir Panic-a-Lot didn't pop that Charjabug into the back and trying to get it into a shield positive scenario. And just because this is the kind of player he is, watch this Gligar. I'm going to call it now. It's Gligar in the lead for Sir Panic-a-Lot because Dugong's not coming, and see what we can make of that.
Yeah, we'll have to see what he sees it in there. I can predict that BJ might go with his own Charjabug in the front for this next game, but we're going to check our caster pairings here shortly just to see. And we do see a Vigoroth mirror match where both of us were incorrect. As per usual, we're not at the top of the APAC region. What these players are, we're seeing them just play this out nice and clean. We get an early shield.
Yeah, early shield. Interesting. A lot of players prefer not to, but I think that's enough of a statement in and of itself that BJ really wants switch advantage and is willing to give up a shield for it. And yeah, Sir Panic-a-Lot letting that go through there. And it is a CMP event for the last body slam. Will BJ use their last shield here to take switch? No, lets it go. And it's going to be a double KO here. Oh, no, it was a CMP event.
Yeah, so BJ went to the back-to-back and was able to get the KO in the one shield, which should happen almost every time if the CMP happens. Get a nice farm down here from Panic for a single Volt Switch. That's a lot of energy to pack in. Quagsire coming in. 2 strong answers to the Cresselia on Panic's side. Just has to figure out what is in the back from his point of view and then solve the puzzle that is this Quagsire with what he's got in front of him.
Yeah, and attempting to solve it, they do. Switching into the Licky, a move wasn't thrown, so it was a safe swap in. Oh, uses a shield on an Aqua Tail, going for the bait for BJ and landing it there. But still in such a nice little spot here, coming out with a lot of energy and dipping to the Cresselia. And these licks will start adding up because these are both bulky Pokemon. The damage output is not that high. This is going to be a slow, drawn-out match. But the switch timer is sort of about 10 to 15 seconds in favor of Sir Panic-a-Lot. It would not surprise me if he went for a snipe towards the end of this matchup.
Just to kind of get ahead on that energy, trying to retain having a little bit of counterplay into the Quagsire will be the story here. This slow matchup here that we're going to be watching is going to rapidly finish as we get closer to the finish line of this game. These body slams are going to go. They're going to wait until the switch clock is up before throwing the grass knot. Very good. Trying to get those clocks closer together so that you can anticipate those switches. BJ playing masterfully here from a lower position. You do see what Panic switching into the Charjabug right before, as Trotter accurately predicted, but goes into a shield.
Shield is very interesting here. And then the dip, so leaving the energy on the Cresselia, choosing not to throw it, out comes... Oh, the Aqua Tail bait goes unshielded! Ooh. That is a huge call from Sir Panic-a-Lot.
Massive call.
Here comes another Aqua Tail. Letting it go.
Bait call.
Shields down is just putting all the faith in that Lickitung.
Lickitung can safely just get to 2 body slams, shield once, and finish the match.
Oh, that's a bit risky though. Didn't Cresselia have a Moonblast? It came out with a move. So it's only going to be able to get 1 move off if that's the case.
Maybe he's going to commit to the Power Whip. He does. but doesn't win charged attack priority and goes down in game 2 to BJ's masterful swap on the Quagsire. As we said towards the end of the match, that finish line happens, one thing after another, gets so quickly to the final frames of that match. Just spectacular.
I could almost hear Sir Panic-a-Lot going, "Oh, I played that wrong." Like right at the end. He's like, "Oh, if I threw the move, I was okay."
Watched his stream, you know that there's times when he's thinking out loud and he's just like, "Oh man, I should not have done that." But BJ, making sure not to miss his opportunity, accurately finds the win conditions despite any potential errors in the match. Panic was ahead for the majority of that match, but just could not pull the trigger at the end. We will see a last chance at a 2-1 victory for BJ to get his first match win and his third win overall in this last match to fight back. What do you think we're going to see? We saw the mirror match of the Vigoroths in game 2. We saw the Charjabug in Panic's Charjabug into BJ's Dugong in opening game number 1. We did see the Quagsire both games. I believe we saw the Vigoroth also in both games for Panic. So will this be the time the Gligar comes in, Trot, as you predicted in the game?
I am no longer feeling brave with my calls, and I'm going to say both players will look at it fairly safe. We got some sort of Vigoroth, Charjabug, Quag, or Cress kind of combo, and similar on the other side. They're just going to play it out with their skill rather than go for some crazy little scenario where they can just hard counter the other person.
Yeah, definitely. I think that actually, like, I would be very interested to see if Panic is going to bring his Gligar in place of the Lickitung this time, because like that Cresselia really threatens him. BJ's shown that he's not afraid to bring the Dugong, and so Panic has got to really think through what he's going to bring in this third match. I believe that Panic could potentially bring a modified version ABA double normal like we saw in the last match instead of an ABB, just for that added safety, putting the Charjabug against a Vigoroth in the opener. But hard to say. The Charjabug is definitely his MVP in this match.
Playing it well. So let's find out. Let's get into a last matchup for both of these battlers of this APAC tournament. And you are correct. It's a Charjabug and a Vigoroth ABA normal.
And it's not just the ABA normal. It is also the Charjabug coming in the lead from BJ. Very, very interesting choice here for the roster. We do see BJ bringing his Mandibuzz this time, making that double normal strategy not quite as effective. But if Panic can get the Lickitung away from it, we might see that matchup paying off in dividends. Does throw the body slam back to back against BJ before potentially allowing the counter down, or just going into the hard swap and saving this for later. Does he do that? Okay. Allows this to go into a lick down situation, Trotter.
Yeah, and I almost feel like Sir Panic-a-Lot is just already just going, I'm putting everything on that Charjabug. Let's see, is Mandibuzz going to come in, or they're going to bring their Charjabug? This is one of those ones where it's a bit tricky to make a call. If you don't know what the backline is, you're almost tempted to bring that Charjabug. And no, it has made a great call here. And out comes the Mandy, and in comes the Bug. And Mandibuzz looking at staying in and getting a little chip off first here.
Yeah, definitely able to get to the attack prior. We do get to see the Dark Pulse come in for a large chip attack, allowing BJ's own Charjabug to not be at the damage differential behind. This Dark Pulse is going to be a very big situation. BJ, recognizing from game 2 that the double normal strategy was ABB, thinks that he's going to see the Charjabug accurately again from the first 2 matches, and Panic committed his first shield here for the mirror match.
Yeah, and does have a pretty good energy advantage too. Going for CMP, Panic is able to win CMP, going to get that shield. Oh, this is tricky now because now it's CMP. Does Panic use their last shield in the hopes that they can keep this charger bug on the opponent's Mandibuzz, or does it? Oh, he does choose the shield.
Needs this damage to go somewhere onto the last pick. Going to go for gonna go for the back-to-back, praying that they don't try to commit their CMP here. Does commit the shield. If possible, might be able to swap.
But win
Goes for the
CMP.
back-to-back, and no CMP from BJ.
Well, BJ loses CMP, so they should have thrown it one earlier. I'm not sure why they went one over, but this has really put a nice little spot here for Sir Panic, because now he swaps there. He's only 1 volt switch away from the discharge. Is this going to be a tight finish here now?
It does look like BJ was able to bank the discharge before leaving that matchup. So if we can see the body slams add up before the Dark Pulse lands, we might be in a position where Panic can just close out the match. BJ's got a very tough hill to climb to basically need to avoid both the ability of this body slam that will definitely come in and get enough energy to also deal with the charge bug, which just looks like too high of a mountain to climb at this stage in the game.
It is a very high mountain to climb here. Oh, and choosing to go for the aerial ace. This is not going to be able to take out this Lickitung. It will be too bulky. So they moved from a 2 charge move farm down scenario potentially to a 3 charge move that are going to be required here. And then there comes the body slam, and it's going to take out this Lickitung.
And as stated before, Mandibuzz not able to bank 2 attacks before the next body slam. So you either gonna have to commit to having 2 attacks with the committing to the aerial ace attacks and also to trying to win charge attack priority against the charger bug, or you just throw the attacks, then you throw the Dark Pulse, then you don't have enough energy, and then you lose the pacing game to the charger bug. Panic a lot having not just 1 win condition in that game, but 2 in a very narrow victory was just masterful play. BJ still giving himself a chance and committing to most likely the better of the 2 outcomes, but not able to really pull the trigger to get his last win. Panic going up in the set, BJ losing the match and having his 2nd win of the day.
Yeah, I think unfortunate for BJ. If they had the time again, they would, and they knew they were committing to the shield in that charger bug mirror. They had the opportunity to throw on CMP, which would have killed Sir Panic a lot's charger bug, but went for the volt switch one over. Maybe had lost count with how many volt switches Sir Panic a lot was at, where their energy was at. Yeah, I think that was the real big turning point where the whole thing just hugely went into Sir Panic a lot's favor. So well done to all the competitors. Sir Panic a lot putting themselves in with a chance for taking out this tournament, and Bjpawat for competing, and yeah, just really trying to put their best foot forward with that Shadow Crag. But just unfortunately, sometimes those little decisions just make it not your day.
Yeah, Panic had, I think, just some very good overall decisions in the predicting for that last match in particular. Just was able to accurately take his ABB strategy that would be anticipated and kind of flip that logic and get into BJ's head just a little bit in that opening scene. Helped continually set up him to have the opportunity to be in the driver's seat for the win there. Thank you so much, guys, for your battles. These were magnificent to cast and to watch. We are going to get into the next match, and we're going to toss it over to RocketClare and Steve to take over.
All right, Claire, we're getting to the tail end of this tournament. Only 2 matches to go. Now, so Panic is currently tied with Yakai at the top of the leaderboard at the moment. So, you know, there's sort of a chance there that if Yakai goes 0-3 in their next battle, that Panic actually has a shot at the title. But we're looking at 2 other battlers who also have a shot at the title, Claire. It's Gamebird and Beelzeboy, who are both sitting at 1 match win. So both of them really need this win to potentially propel them into that possible first place spot. What are you sort of seeing on these 2 teams?
Oh, okay. So looking at this matchup, what I'm really struck by is I feel like that Gamebird has a pretty good team advantage. Just looking at what Beelzeboy has got to counter, even just straight up looking at the Licky Tongue, which we've seen a little bit, but we've seen probably more Crocelias in these teams. I think Gamebird can really utilize the neutral play of Licky Tongue against Beelzeboy, and Beelzeboy is really going to have to play around that, because apart from the Vigoroth, there's not too much there. Maybe Cresselia if you can energy manage, perfectly, but I think Gamebird has got a big advantage there. I'm excited to see. We haven't casted Gamebird yet. Obviously they've played already, but excited to see them play the Feraligatr. Obviously, such a high attack, high damage Pokemon. Always exciting, and it's going to make it very hard for Beelzeboy to bring the Skeledirge as well. Definitely going to be interesting to see what Beelzeboy brings to try and counter this team, I think.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. It really feels like Gamebird has that team composition advantage where Beelzeboy, none of their 6 Pokemon really look safe into Gamebird's team. Everything has something it has to be fearful of. And so there really is going to be, have to be some thought into not just building, a relatively balanced team, but building a team that they can sort of pivot into any Pokemon, sort of an ability to work with whatever the Pokemon they're facing is, and adapt to what Pokemon Gamebird brings into the game. So I think it's going to be a really interesting one, and Beelzeboy is going to have to play really well to take down Gamebird. But, he's in with a chance, because it's definitely something we've been seeing through this tournament, that these guys definitely know exactly how to play Pokemon Go PvP. So let's jump into the very first game, Gamebird versus Beelzeboy. It looks like we only have one side for the footage again, unfortunately, and this time it's going to be Gamebirds. So we have the Annihilate coming in against that Chargebug, and an instant swap into that Lickitung. Neutral versus neutral. Does Beelzeboy leave, or do they decide to let Chargebug try and get rid of this Lickitung to save whatever they might have in the back?
Potentially Beelzeboy is going to throw some energy here and then take the opportunity to dip. Doesn't look like he's doing that though. He's going to wear a body slam. Chargebug can handle this all right. It's got a bit of tankiness to it. It's just not a favourable matchup against the Lickitung. So it'd be interesting to see if he tries to maintain that advantage. But it doesn't look like he's got something in the back to counter the Lickitung. Might feel that this is his best option.
Yeah, it sort of tells you that it's unlikely to see a Vigoroth in the back for Beelzeboy potentially. But, Chargebug. Actually, we're going to see the swap it into Skeledirge, which is a really interesting swap, Claire, because you take super effective damage from the Licks, but Body Slams are completely resisted. And so you force the Lickitung to go for the Power Whip here. Not the scariest move for the Skeledirge, and you're going to get quite a bit of energy using those Incinerates to farm down the Vigoroth. And now, no matter what Pokemon Gamebird brings in here, they're going to have to contend with the fact that a Shadow Ball is either going to KO or do a lot of damage. And I mean, Claire, this is insane. Bringing the Annihilate in, you have to burn shields. You just have to.
That's an interesting choice. I mean, that was perfectly played by Beelzeboy. Now we see why he delayed that switch. He wanted to wait till the Lickitung was low enough that the Licks weren't going to have the chance to do too much damage. And that was a beautiful farm on Skeledirge. I guess interesting choice to bring the Annihilate in. It's getting off these super effective Night Slashes, but Beelzeboy is already so ahead in energy, and those Incinerates adding up so much as well. I'm not sure if Gamebird... Okay, so Gamebird's going to save the Annihilate and try and get off another Night Slash and get rid of this Skeledirge. It'd be interesting to see if Beelzeboy tries to save it or says, right, Skeledirge has done its job now, we're going to let this go.
Gonna use the Protect Shield. No Protect Shields left in this game. Skeledirge gets to its charged attacks really quickly, and you actually saw Beelzeboy waiting there. They were just waiting, pending to see if there was going to be a swap into the Gligar, and that's exactly what we ended up seeing here. Gligar comes in and is now going to have to eat a Shadow Ball, which it doesn't love, but it does hang on, and unfortunately for Gamebird, it's going to be that Azumarill in the back. And look, Gamebird is going to try and get as many charge attacks off here as possible. It looks like they're going for the back-to-back Aerial Ace as opposed to going for the slightly higher damaging Dig, but so tight, and an Azumarill is just going to be able to bubble down, and as soon as Azumarill throws a single charge move into that Annihilate is not going to be around for very much longer, and quite far away from a Shadow Ball as well, unfortunately. So it looks like Beelzeboy has actually wrapped up this game quite well into Gamebird, which, I mean, Claire, clearly there's some strategy here to get over that team composition apparent disadvantage.
My goodness, what even just happened? That was amazing play from Beelzeboy, the way he turned that around, and then the fortune of having a Azumarill that counters Gligar and Annihilate in the back so perfectly. I mean, we're seeing it's the return of a Azumarill again. It just keeps coming back, doesn't it? And it's everywhere in GBL at the moment. And seeing an Azumarill, you don't want to see it if you've got a Gligar or an Annihilate, and to have both of those left at sort of low health and see this really tanky, healthy Azumarill staring back at you is one of those heart-dropping moments, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and maybe that's, what Beelzeboy needs to do. It's not just about going for some sort of RPS strategy, right? It's about having a strategy in mind in that game, as we saw with like weakening down that Lickitung to the point that Skeledirge was then able to come in, get quite a bit of farm quite safely, knowing that they weren't going to take a lot of damage, that they'd be able to take a lot of fast move damage from whatever Gamebird decided to swap in Lickitung's place. And then having that strong team comp advantage in the back as well to just shore up the game, make it all clean and easy. Like, it's just really nice play from Beelzeboy. And again, it really just comes back to that identification of win cons. It's finding the path forward, the path to victory, no matter what the opponent is bringing. And Beelzeboy really showing how it's done in this very first game of the last match here.
Absolutely. We know Skeledirge is so oppressive, and if it's in a bad matchup, if it can just get a few innocent Incinerates lead, even 1 or 2, it can flip that matchup. And again, just so oppressive with those charge moves. So very, very well played.
Yeah, at 1 Incinerate giving you 20 energy. That's a lot of energy in the tank when, 3 Incinerates and you've got a Shadow Ball all of a sudden, which there is not. Lickitung is the only Pokemon on Gamebird's side that wants to take a Shadow Ball. And the amount of catches we've seen in this tournament, Claire, I wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing Lickitung catching a Shadow Ball later. But, Beelzeboy's going to try their best.
Steve. I wonder if there's something that we don't.
I have not seen any of these battles, so I can only hope that we're going to see some more shenanigans afoot. But with that said, let's jump into game number 2, where Beelzeboy again, both these battlers really going to be pushing to try and get that victory here for the chance to win the tournament. And we have the Annihilate into the Quagsire, which is another bit of an interesting matchup here. We have the Lickitung and the Gligar in the back, and to be honest, this can go a lot of ways, and it really depends what strategy you want to employ and where you want to use your Protect Shields.
That's right. Annihilate's pretty safe into this matchup, and at least initially it's not going to have to shield too much, maybe down the track, but quite happily wearing that move and going straight for the Shadow Ball. So no baiting here, anticipating that Beelzeboy won't shield.
Oh, wow.
And great play there by Gamebird, and Beelzeboy quite happy to bring in his Skeledirge again, obviously very comfortable with his Pokemon, and risk facing, potentially a Shadow Ball, just baiting with the Night Slash, but that will still do a lot, Steve.
Yeah, and so really does need to burn that Protect Shield. And because it's a 5-turn move, Annihilate able to maneuver getting a Night Slash. That is such confidence from Gamebird, knowing their Pokemon, knowing how strong they are, knowing they'll get to that last charge attack and forcing a 2-0 shield advantage from Gamebird, and now able to swap their full health Lickitung into the Skeledirge. This is a much better spot for Gamebird's Lickitung to be in this Skeledirge matchup. Just going to have to see straight Disarming Voices, not a Shadow Ball in sight. Now, Disarming Voice does come quite quickly from the Skeledirge, and alongside the Incinerate damage, it really does add up onto this Lickitung. And so it's going to be a bit of a question, I think, Claire, of what is in the back. What is this Gligar going to have to contend with in a little bit?
I'm pretty happy. If I've got a Gligar with 2 shields in the back and my opponent has 0 shields, I don't bring anything, maybe not a Dugong, but, I think he's played that extremely well, and was very lucky to get that second Night Slash off from the Annihilate. Lickitung just being its own shield there, not being too concerned about those early Disarming Voices, but deciding he's going to get rid of this. He knows he can lick down this Skeledirge and really dominate this matchup.
Okay, now that is some heads-up thinking going, hang on a minute. There's a chance there's an Azumarill in the back. I might want to get a Power Whip off. And so keeps their Lickitung around, goes for the Power Whip, brings that Azumarill down to half health, and now they can bring in their 1 shield up Gligar into the Azumarill. At this point, you can sort of burn a shield regardless. We know that this Azumarill does have Ice Beam, and we know they still have a few more bubbles before they do have an opportunity to get to another one. So Gamebird is going to go for really nice move timing here. 4 wing attacks into 2 3 bubbles, going for the aerial ace now. This isn't going to be enough to KO, but he's going to go for the charge attack priority. Wait. What did we just see? That Azumarill didn't move. Was it waiting? Or is it just knowing that the game was over?
Perhaps the knowing, Steve. Yeah, that was interesting. It's hard without seeing the other screen, but yeah, that was a pretty decisive. I think Beelzeboy knew where that one was going.
Yeah. It's a tough one to recover from, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so 1-1. That's really exciting. I didn't expect, to be honest, for it to be this even. So yeah, excited to see what these trainers do. Obviously, looking at their teams, using the experience of the last 2 battles, Beelzeboy, if you didn't already know, or now knows that Lickitung is coming every game and potentially being used as a safe switch. Does he take the risk of bringing the Vigor off in the back and punishing that strategy? That'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough when you're playing, someone as strong as Gamebird, and they have this knowledge that my Annihilate will survive on 1 HP and I will get that second charge tag off. And just even if maybe they didn't predict it from the very start, maybe they just watched how slowly their health bar was going down and they were like, I can take 2 more licks. And just stayed in for what last counter that they needed, get the Night Slash off. And to be honest, if that Night Slash didn't go through and Beelzeboy had that 1 extra protect shield, they would be in a slightly better position, especially when they had that Azumarill waiting for the Gligar in the back. Like, it really could have been a different game if Annihilate didn't get to that second charge attack. So it really does come down to these tiny decisions, these tiny impacts of the smallest things when you get to this high skill level. So really excited to see what is going to come out in this third and final battle. Only one of these battles, well, guaranteed, one of these battlers is going to tie with Yakai and Panic at the top of that leaderboard for 2 match wins and 5 game wins. So we're just going to have to wait and see as we jump into game 3 who it's going to be.
Okay, so pretty favourable start for Gamebird with the Lickitung going into the Quagsire. It's going to be interesting to see how Beelzeboy handles this. Obviously not choosing to swap out straight away. Potentially going to get off some energy and then swap, or shield, Steve. I'm not really sure. He's obviously got a plan in his own head how he's going to play this.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to be going for a body slam here before going for the power whip. So just going to put the threat into Beelzeboy. But we've seen some big calls happen earlier in this tournament. This is not going to be one of them, though. We're going to see that Quagsire trying to protect itself. And Gamebird sitting here going, no matter what charge attack this Quagsire throws, my Lickitung is going to survive. I can take this charge attack, and I'm then going to be able to threaten that power whip. And so we actually see another Aqua Tail coming through here. And Gamebird, they know how much HP their Pokemon has. They go, hey, I'm going to survive. I'm going to get to my power whip. Make us nervous potentially, but no nerves on Gamebird's side apparently. That is just nerves of steel with the power whip now going to that Quagsire and takes the second Protect Shield.
So Beelzeboy using both shields, unfavourable matchup, but decided that wanted to win switch and was worth burning the shields for it. And now with the Gligar coming in, that's really advantageous. Can really get those super effective Aqua Tails off. And oh goodness, now bring in the Azumarill to really make that Gligar sweat. The dig obviously will do a bit of a chunk of Azumarill, but not really too much. Azumarill's so tanky, and dig isn't the greatest move against it. So interesting to see. Okay, so does Gamebird decide to save the Gligar, or is he going to just work and save that shit? Okay, so going to save the Gligar and utilize it to try and get off another dig potentially to get rid of the Azumarill.
No. Okay, we're going to see the Aerial Ace instead. Not going to KO the Azumarill, but will start to chip it down, potentially opening the door for Charger Bug in the back to get a little bit of farm. Oh no, we're actually going to see the back-to-back Aerial Ace play coming in from the Gligar. And with Beelzeboy having 0 Protect Shields remaining, this Aerial Ace will go through, Azumarill will go down, and now we see the Vigoroth coming out from the back. This is not what Gamebird necessarily wants to see, because Charger Bug with no Protect Shields is going to have to take a Rock Slide to the face. Lickitung is really low, and Gligar, as much as you have an Aerial Ace in the bank, it's not super effective into the Vigoroth. And so Gamebird is really going to have to try their best to take this Vigoroth down, and an X-Scissor, it's going to be the first step on the way to do it, but it's not going to get you all the way.
Yeah, that was an interesting choice from Gamebird. I guess one. Oh my
There was
goodness, what
cash.
a catch for the bonsai there. So there you go. Vigoroth is still really healthy. I was just saying, allowing Vigoroth to get that energy lead and get the rock slide off the charger bug. It's almost a bit of a sack on the charger bug. Still getting off a next season the Vigoroth and getting it extremely low though, and Beelzeboy having to send a body slam to take care of this charger bug. So yeah, really back and forth seesawing play here. I'm not really sure exactly what's going to happen. Gamebird's still got those two very low health mons. I think is there an aerial ace banked on the
There
Gligar?
is.
So that was the play.
Oh my gosh! Knowing that the
Blast.
charge attack priority was going to go in favor of the Vigoroth, goes for the peekaboo play, brings out the Gligar,
Excellent
knowing
play.
that there was going to be the tap, and there's the swap. Oh my goodness, Vigoroth comes in, Aerial Ace is going to finish this off, and Gamebird is going to go ahead with a 2-match score with 5 wins in the bank, and after what seems like the longest end of game stutter in the world, takes out the Vigoroth.
That's incredibly exciting, honestly. And the fact that Beelzeboy made that so close with such a polarizing matchup between the two teams is a credit to him as well. Extremely well played on both sides.
Oh, yeah, incredibly well played. I mean, I think this is sort of one of the closer sets of this series where we really just saw this back and forth play. All of these, both of these trainers playing their absolute hearts out with some hard to follow plays at times. I mean, that Quagsire swap came out of nowhere to me, but just really high level thinking and something that you really have to it takes a lot of practice and time and skill to be able to comprehend everything that all of the different paths that your win cons can come from. And these guys are apparently pros at finding them where they are.
Yeah, that's very apparent indeed, and really, really appreciate that they've been able to showcase these battles. They put the time in to do them. I think it's fantastic, and it's a really good way to start getting our minds around Worlds and what we can expect from that.
Yeah, no, exactly right. But with only 1 match left to go, we can get a bit of a scoreboard update and take a look at, currently 3 battlers that are on 2-match wins and 5 game wins. The only match left to play is Yakai versus Goji. If Goji goes 3-0 here, they will outright win the entire tournament. But if Yakai gets a victory here, whether it's 2-1 or 3-0, they will take the series. But in the rare scenario where Goji potentially goes 2-1, we're still going to see Yakai take out the victory. So Goji needs to get a 3-0 here and take the win away from Yakai. That's the only path forward, Claire.
Oh my goodness, that's a huge ask. But anyway, I'll be taking Goji and his spicy team, or slightly spicy team. He's played really, really awesomely until now. So who knows what could happen.
Yeah, exactly right. And so we're going to be passing it over to DrTrotter and Not Rob for the final battle of the day, the final set of the day, Yakai versus Goji. The question on everyone's lips is, can Goji prevent Yakai from victory? Or is Yakai just going to sail into the W spot? Let's throw it over to those guys for the last match of the set, and we'll be all back afterwards.
All right, trainers, welcome back to the final set in our Swiss format. And as stated, we have a 3-0 that Goji has to hit in order for Yakai to have a situation that he does not come out on top. However, Yakai still doesn't want to lose in order to win Swiss. No player wants to lose to a 1-2 match in order to avoid the kind of having the least common denominator when it comes to the absolute need to win, at least in the final showcase here. But Goji has that spicy, fun team that we saw from Inadequance over in Europe, running that Wigglytuff, Giratina, Talonflame core into Yakai's double shadow team that has been paying off in dividends today.
Now, the difference in this, though, this is the first time we've seen Giratina has play. Plenty. It's neutral, but it's got play. It's going to land everything. As weird as this sounds, the only place it doesn't really want to see is the Vigoroth, which is weird for Ghost normal counter user, but it's just one of those things. So I actually think we could go potential for a lot of Giratina play. And because of that, maybe we won't see too much of that Registeel. We'll look for other options for taking out the Skarmory and the Cresselia. But look, this actually looks like a really fun matchup. I'm really actually looking forward to jumping into this and seeing what angle these people take.
Goji also having that double water to kind of protect against the charge bug is also very important in this kind of matchup looking at it. Because if you see a charge bug, the Mantine does not want to see that at all. So you kind of really just need to decide whether you're going to run an ABB to draw it out, close with that Mantine, or if you want to use the ABA strategy to do the same similar things. But again, the bulkiness of a normal Whiscash here does seem to help in some of these other matchups to kind of keep those threats away from your Talonflames. However, looking at Yekai's team, both of these water types aren't looking too... how would we say this? They're not looking too something like a Pokemon you want to rely on going into this matchup, let's say. So it's going to be a little bit harder to kind of decide what you want to pair with those going into Yekai's team. These Shadowmons look like they're like your primary targets, but just having that bench pressure of Cresselia and Skarmory into those water types and especially your charge bug, making it really hard to make a decision. I think Goji might just rely on that Registeel yet again.
It's the potential's there. Like there's lots of different ways that these matches go out. I don't see the players just running like those core three. I feel like there's gonna be lots of change ups between the games. Lots of sort of like the first game might be like play it safe, feel it out, and then from there maybe they'll might look at playing a little bit riskier. But there's lots of counters for that Cresselia on Goji's side, which might make it feel like you can play that Whiscash just that little bit more.
I also think that you're very right about the kind of change ups with these rosters, because from Goji's position has to basically perform out of his mind in this kind of selection screen in order to pull out a W 3 times in a row to surprise the opponent, because consistency when you're running a team like this is very difficult, like as far as like consistently running the same Pokemon, I should say. But in Yekai's position, equally as random, he can rely on this, right? Because Yekai has no threats that he has to worry about, only needs to pick up that one match. So if both of these players are aware of the situation that they're in, Yekai, the situation just needing to get a single win, Goji realizing that he needs to get 3 wins, we could see some pretty crazy considerations. So the mind games are kind of over 9,000 here going into this first match.
They're always fun when you get into those little mind game scenarios. So let's get into this match and see what mind games they play. And good luck to our competitors. And oh, this is an interesting one. What did this lead a Talonflame into Vigoroth? This is such a like kind of tricky, intricate shield bait dependent kind of matchup. And it looks like, did we get no body slam bait? This is a huge call for Joji to make in this starting matchup.
Not being able to risk it, we do see the shield first come down into the next Incinerate, going into either the Flame Charge or the Fly Bait. Let's Flame Charge as a Fly Bait or a Fly. We do see the Flame Charge coming in, setting up for a nice juicy farm down, which means that you're going to have to go down 2 shields or commit to the farm down game in your back row and trust. We do see the 2 shields.
Tricky, but I feel I hate going down 2 shields
a lot,
but I feel like it's an important play. But we'll need to get out of this
for this. You set yourself up for this high amount of damage going into the Quagsire. Does soak the Fly, knowing that he has 2. Will shield the second and pray that the final Pokemon Talonflame using those shields wisely to pressure the rest and then leaving to set up here.
Oh, this is interesting because this Quag's really, Whiscash is kind of nice everywhere here. Can take a second Aqua Tail before it needs to really, well, it can't shield, sorry. No shields left on their side. We use them up. But like a Scald into that into the Gligar is really tricky. Oh, potentially here. Oh,
massive
is this a Scald?
catch.
Is this a bait? Because this is a huge.
If this is a Mud Bomb,
It is.
Oh my gosh. Yekai playing out of his mind, showing why he's at the top of this roster. Will commit the next shield to the Scald potential, which it is a threatening Scald. Will get all the way up to the next Scald worth of energy, just loading this Gligar to finish the game. Is absolutely putting Yekai in an even further differential of dominance of this first match win. What do we see in the back, Goji? What do you have? We do see the Talonflame returning, has its first Incinerate. What's coming around the bend here? What are you thinking, Trot?
Ooh, I hope it's the Giratina, but I feel like it might not be. Well,
Oh, it's a Wiggles.
huh. I don't
Not
know. Who wins
terrible.
this? I don't know. This is crazy.
Honestly, the best thing that Goji could have committed here. Maybe we see why those two shields were committed early.
Is he going to get to another aerialist? Is he going to get charmed down? Another aerialist? Oh, goes for the catch. Wait. Catches a move.
One frame drop gets the catch.
This is bad because he has to throw the move here, and then it will be within. No, he can't. He can't even do it.
Can't
That's
throw it. Goji comes up with the most ridiculous win that we would have been able to cast had we known what was in the back. But as if we're playing the whole match from Yekai's point of view, we are just stunned watching the fast move pressure that is the nightmare of Wigglytuff threat. Putting Goji on the map and keeping him alive with the dream of going 3-0.
I was surprised it wasn't just a straight dig farm down attempt from there. I think potentially if you had the time over again, maybe you throw the dig into the Wiggly, and then you can able to just go for a farm down, and then forcing them to throw, setting up your Quag in the back. But
that Talonflame threat was so big. Getting up that much energy, staying in with the boost from your flame charge to threaten the worst thing that you can see in the Quagsire. Because of the shadow damage, putting it down so low, and also continually keeping that threat in the back of your opponent's mind by saving the Talonflame till the end of the match, and then just having a Wigglytuff behind that nightmare of attacks that they have to commit was spectacular.
And
you saw how much
good. You saw how much that boosted fly did to that Shadow Quagsire. Like that was like 75% HP.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely huge. Goji 2 wins away from getting up in this tournament.
From having 2 matches to just put you in this negative position, getting to the point where you are actually in the driver's seat of being able to flip the whole day around in a single match. I think it's without further ado. We're not going to do any more analysis. I want to see these battles. What do we have in game number 2 but a Registeel into a Vigoroth?
Now, this seems like a little bit of a weird one, but you're getting shields with this Registeel. So you're not going to win this matchup, but you are 100% staying in here because you're setting up your back 2 monsters to have a shield advantage to potentially take this one out. We may be looking at Yekai building up energy and going for a catch on the next one. I mean, they attempted it, but solid play. Oh, and the Mantine comes out.
The hard read Goji makes to just commit to them not bringing the Charjabug after what you saw in game 1 is giga-brained tactics. This is very, very big. This is not a favorable matchup, to be sure, for the Mantine, but being able to slowly sap the resources away from Yekai's Quagsire to hopefully get a little bit of an edge is going to be the end game for this Registeel, I think.
The Registeel, but what else is there? There's 2 shields saved. So is there maybe a Wigglytuff in the back? Are we seeing a little Wigglytuff in the back?
If it's not the Wigglytuff, I could even see the Giratina or the Talonflame back there because both have very good matchups into what's remaining on the roster for Yekai, not knowing that the Gligar's waiting.
But the Gligar was able to eat. They baited when they had the energy for the Stonage there. And now we are in a huge advantage for Yekai. And it is the Talonflame.
It is the Talonflame.
Up shields.
It always feels good to actually predict what is in the back, but man, was I not expecting it.
Here comes the Reggie. Focus Blast will take this out. There's a lot of energy here, but we know even if you shield this energy is just going into the Registeel. You're now down shields with a Talonflame in the back. This is not pleasant.
Can Yekai get a single counter next to commit 3 body slams here and get to the Gligar? Because the second body slam might just KO here.
The second body slam will KO with this energy, but they are not going to get to the Rock Slide. So if Goji has their counts right and throws a move, oh, yep. So this is the body slam. There is no need to shield this. Are they able to get it? Oh, and gets the shield. That's huge.
Likely just going to catch. Yep, there's the catch. We're going to see likely a flame charge here.
But all they need to do is if they can build up to 2 here, they're not worried about the first aerial ace. It's the second one that they're going to need to do. Maybe 2 aerial aces and a body slam is going to be able to take out this Talonflame. Does it have enough energy to take out both Mons?
It doesn't have it just there. We're probably going to see yet another flame charge just to see if we can get the Incinerate off. This is going to be a photo finish of a match. Let's see where we get. They don't have it. Loses charge attack priority because it can't quite get the syncing correctly with the 0 turn alignment here. Yekai takes game number 2 in a 1-1 even match. When normal circumstances say this is a win, the actuality of this last situation is that we have a Yekai win for the day. Yekai will be finishing at the top of the charts just with a single win, but can he extend the lead to play game 3? Can Goji compete back and say, no, I'm going to make you fight for this last win? This is a kind of a consolation prize for both players to kind of see and prove themselves yet again in game 3.
Come on, Goji, bring out that Giratina. Oh, and this is, again, neutral. I feel like Yekai is playing the same 3 Mons here as we can see, going up to the Stone Edge and going 1 over. So going to be eating a move here. Do we see a pivot from Goji out of this Mantine, or will they stay in?
Yeah, you don't really like this matchup as the Mantine, but in a show 6 format, when you have like an informed decision, this could be a fine matchup for you to take because you really just want to get rid of this. If they bait like this, it is so much better for you. If you call a single bait in this matchup, it is just a monumental dominant position you can get in for this Mantine. Because at this point in the game, you can commit the shield, you can just get the farm down, and potentially just survive anyways and not even need to commit the shield. Because those mud shots are not going to take you out, and then you give minimal farm to your opponent, and you're still up 2 shields.
You are, but let's see what's in the back. What are we playing this time? Oh, out comes the Whiscash. Oh,
classic ABA water strategy yet again coming from Goji. What is behind this? The Talonflame or the Wigglytuff? Flip a coin. We'll see it soon.
Oh, he's calling it. You forgot about the Registeel. The Giratina. It could be anything. We're seeing Goji feeling free to choose whatever his Pokemon in the back is. Here comes. Is this a Scald or a Mud Bomb? It's the Scald. Is there a debuff? Oh, and it is the switch here into the Gligar.
Without a switch, what are we seeing here? What is the play? We're going to shield the Scald, see for another debuff. Here it comes. And then we see the shield. There is no debuff. Ooh. It is the Talonflame called again.
There is a lot of energy here on Gligar, but it chooses to shield the first. I'm predicting a no shield on this second. Ooh, wow, we're
to astronomical frames of energy calculations here.
There's a lot of energy here for both players and not a lot of health left.
All right. Does not go back to back Yekai. Decides to commit a shield instead. We'll get the next aerial ace moving in here. However, Yekai has the decision to either make the swap into a catch. He does.
This is a nice catch. But is there going to be enough energy to then take both of these mons out. It does look like they have plenty here. And there goes for the catch. Whiscash, will it survive? Whiscash might just survive. Oh no, they went for the dig.
Commits to the dig. Okay, Goji's gonna have to pull out. Does have a single incinerate. Will not outpace. Very masterful energy conditions for Yakai and for Goji in this match, with the advantage going to the Gligar. Congratulations, Yakai, in your 2-1 victory and in your game 2 all-day victory over the whole board. We see it right here. Yakai going up 3 wins in his Swiss format to win 7 games. Masterful. Yakai only dropping a single game all day in the very last match. Or sorry, I shouldn't say that, because the games can be 2-1s. That's right. So, or it can be 3-0s.
2 games.
Yeah. Drop 2 games
one in
all
the
day,
first
yeah.
and one in the second, but very well played to Yakai. I think those 2-turn fast moves were really helpful against that Talonflame, especially then. But let's bring all the crew back together, the whole fam's back together, and let's see. How did you feel those guys went, Claire, Steve?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was incredibly close, and well done, guys, keeping track and casting that, because it was really anybody's battle, all 3 of those, and incredibly well played by both.
Yeah, it really makes it tough when you can't see Goji's screen. You're just sitting there going, "What is this guy gonna do? Like, what's going through his head? What's he brought into this game?" Like, it really makes it. I don't want to say a crapshoot, but it really makes it like such a puzzle, and like this could go in so many different directions, impossible to predict. And after that first game where Goji took the first one, I was like, oh, hang on a minute. Do we have a chance? Are we going to see a potential Giratina Wigglytuff victory? But unfortunately for Goji, very fortunately for Yakai, was able to defend in the end there, get those last 2 wins, and not only get the sort of technical win by tiebreaker, but also making it a clear 3-0 victory across the tournament. Undefeated as far as never dropping a match. So really well played from Yakai, who they didn't have to bring any sort of fancy picks or spice. They just played incredibly well the entire way through. This is potentially the highest density of catches I've ever seen in a tournament. They did a pretty good job, put it that way.
Very technical play indeed, coming from Yakai throughout the entirety of the tournament, not just in that last match. But also very interesting that the shock factor of that Talonflame nearly paid off in game 2. But in retrospect, again, this is probably something that we can predict that, Goji might be thinking in post-game, kind of a post-game interview for himself, is that, man, I should have just played that Wigglytuff, because that would have that would have really turned around the whole game. And I'm sure that, Claire's got that Jigglypuff in the background there. Probably hard committing to the Wigglytuff's not a bad idea coming from her point of view, I would imagine.
I'm not a huge charm player, but I'm definitely more of a charm player than Incinerator, put it that
way. Fair enough.
Yeah, but look, all in all, a really nice, tight ending to the entire series, and really just well played from all 6 of the battles the whole way through. For the most part, all of those were really well skilled on both sides. There were a few that came down to some pretty hard team comps, but for the most part, it was really skill-based competition. And I think it really, if nothing else, it goes to show anyone going to the World Championships in just a month's time, those Asian trainers are definitely some folks to look out for, because they have got the stuff. They worked really hard to get through a really difficult qualification circuit where they only had one opportunity. They basically couldn't fail, and they were able to succeed. And that skill was really on display today, coming through this tournament as well. So definitely 6 trainers to be watching out for at the World Championships in Honolulu for sure. But with that said, that's all the battles that we have today. So thank you everyone for coming out and supporting these APAC trainers fighting through. And of course, thanks to the 6 APAC battlers for jumping into this tournament for our benefit, so we can see some really hype battles. But before we head off, any sort of last words, shout out, play of the day sort of vibes. I mean, Claire, any sort of finishing thoughts before we head out here?
I feel like I've shared most of my thoughts. Like I keep saying, just really high quality battles, like you've said, Steve, really shows what talent is out there and how hard those guys have had to fight to get to this point. So they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in Honolulu for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. What about you, Trotter?
Oh, well, I just want to say there's one other very highly skilled battler from the APAC region that everyone's going to need to watch out for, and she's over there. So, keep that in mind, everyone, that it's not just the boys that are here to play. The girls are they're coming for blood, I've heard. So watch out. No, but I really enjoyed seeing the Quagsire play. The Shadow Quagsire was really good to see how fast and how dominant it had in so many neutral matchups, not just the ones that it's positive in. So that's definitely a mon that I think there could be a few people looking into on the way to Honolulu.
Definitely
With the tournament today, I think like the players that we see here, we don't really know what's going in through their head when they're going to try to display their talent in a tournament like this because it is unofficial. You could potentially see these players running these squads just because it's really close. There is no pressure to try these teams out. Some of these things are going to be surprising. Some of them are going to be consistency checks that players might be going at it. Some people might just be like, I'm never changing my team and I want to practice. So you have all kinds of different things that are going into this. And so what you're going to see may not be indicative of what you saw today. So there's a lot more surprises around there. They might be also preparing for different players right now. These players are probably predicting for each other. So going into a Worlds format, they might be playing more risky. They might be playing more safe. You never really know. We're going to have a high density of players, and there's a lot more matches than 3 there. So I'm excited to see these players there. All the APAC region players were not here today because, Australia, New Zealand has got their sections also going to be playing. We also have a lot, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that this World's Championship has the highest density of female competitors at a World's Championship for Go since we started the official circuits.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Rob. Yeah, I think that's correct. It's still percentage-wise way lower than we'd like to see it compared to the guys, but definitely growing, which is going in the right direction for sure.
Definitely. So this is going to be a Worlds to remember for all of you out there. Make sure you say hi to your competitors and to your creators. If you're going to go to Honolulu, please tune into those streams. It's going to be on the Play Pokemon side. Also, I speak for Claire and Trotter when I say thank you, Steve, for hosting everything. It has been such a high class setup just for having to endure all of the technical issues and plan this and a lot of pivots that happened, not just today, but prior to today. Just so you guys know, Steve's been trying to set this up for a while. And also wanted to make sure that we, again, thank the players for showcasing their talent. It is always a little bit of a risk to show up to these type of tournaments because you showcase your own talent in a region that is hidden, that is your advantage when you're leading in those things. And so thank you for the competitors, Gamebird and Goji and Yakai and BJ and BLs and Panic. Thank you for your battles, and submitting those recordings is not also easy either. So thank you so much for all of your efforts, Steve and players.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Rob. It's really cool to sort of see these things come together, see these top battlers sort of willing to essentially invest the time to give us some really hype battles to watch. And of course, they get some pretty good practice against some of the other really good trainers from around the world as well. So really grateful to all of them. And of course, grateful to you three for coming onto the stream as well, casting through what has turned out to be quite a long tournament. Appreciate you sticking through it and watching, some really, really cool battles. And Claire, really looking forward to seeing you killing it at the World Championships as well, alongside these 6 battlers and the rest of the APAC squad, including the Aussies and the Kiwis. But with that said, really quick, thank you as well to DrTrotter for providing the stream overlay graphics for today. And of course, for providing coverage of these APAC events as well, because to be honest, I personally wouldn't have known who was winning these events, who was performing in these events if it wasn't for DrTrotter putting out their graphics, putting out their coverage of these Asian tournaments as well. So really appreciative of that too. But yeah, thank you everyone for coming out. We'll see you in some more streams going into the future, and I think we're going to be raiding into Final Boss AJ. But with that said, be sure to check out Trotter and Not Rob streaming on Twitch as well. And I'm sure Claire is going to join the party soon, right, Claire? That's
Yeah, sure.
you heard it here first. That's a sure. That's a positive. So, and Evo's been posting the links in the chat as well. So appreciate that. But see you all next time. See you at Worlds. Good luck, everybody.
Bye, everyone.